What's good, chat? It's Wednesday. We got a great panel here. Lucky to have Kamran Pasha back with us this week. But first, I'm going to bring us in Nadia, the maiden of horror herself. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
You talked me out of watching Terrifier today.
Why?
Because you just the way you described the gore was like, yeah, it sounds like it's not plot relevant at all.
Well, I feel Vex would argue that it's plot driven. It's too much. Like the second Terrifier, the third act is great. I really enjoyed that. It actually turned my ideas of the whole franchise around.
Okay.
But sometimes it's just gory to be gory. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of how you made it sound.
Yeah. But I would skip one and just watch two.
Okay. That's good advice then. You did a reaction today to the third film.
Yes.
Trailer. With
Vex as a special guest. She was my first guest ever on the channel. So yeah.
Good pair. What a good pair. Mm-hmm. Speaking of good pairs, Lady B and Lord B.
Good segue.
You like that?
Oh, hello.
I like that. That was good.
Yeah. And I'm done. Have a good night, everybody.
Go out on top. No,
yeah.
It's almost like you do this, Zach, like a lot.
It's almost like I do this. Well, not exactly, but I'm working on it. Speaking of professionals, Kamran Pasha's with us.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you all. And I don't think I've ever met Lord B. I don't think we've been on a channel together, have we?
I don't
think so. No.
I don't think so. I think I'm mostly in the chat, providing context. Like what great context Kamran is providing.
He is so Lord B is a Wheel of Time expert, and so that's how I actually met both of them.
Thing.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you remember when I had Kamran on our channel?
Yeah, it was a Wheel of Time.
I
don't remember anything, but you guys made sense of my pitch. Yeah.
Okay. I knew we'd met.
There we go. Bringing people together. That's what we do here.
Yes.
I wasn't Lord B back then, though. So.
No. You were like, what would you
Alex
be?
Green.
Alex
class?
Courting Lady B. How about that?
Yeah.
So they are a nipple. They know that, everyone. It's all good.
Yes, I'm sorry. We didn't have time to get a thing, and we're on Will's computer, so.
Oh, don't be sorry. Happy to have you. Sorry. Don't be sorry. I will be Canadian, and let's have a list of people in the chat, and we're going to get on with the show. Thanks, Lieutenant. I've seen some people here. I've already noticed I don't recognize their names, so that's always nice. Lieutenant Crittenden. That's a rank, I bet, somehow. John Richards, Paul McAvoy guy, good to see you. Hello, thanks for coming. Kij and Corey, always good to see you. The lovely Sherry. Jenny Sabian, I don't recognize you, so welcome. Thanks for coming. Maybe she followed Kamran here. No, Nadia, you're here. AJ's here. Good to see you, AJ. Love AJ. So I'll put the link up later, but AJ is competing to meet Cesar Millan, who is his. I know it sounds funny, but it's actually, it's so funny that it's actually true. His hero is Cesar Millan. AJ's a dog trainer, and he wants to meet him. And there's a voting contest right now. You can get one vote for free per round. And I think he's on round 5 now. So he's going through. So I'll put the link up later, and he wants to meet him, and it's pretty cool if he can. And I want to go somehow live stream that.
Hell yeah.
I was going to say, AJ, let us know how many rounds of the competition there are, because I'll throw some money down to get you there. You just got to tell me when you want me to do it.
Hear that, AJ? The reparations coming in.
Yeah. Let's go.
The Devastator. Nice to see you. And you got people saying hi to each other. Flaccid Phoenix is here. What's up, Flaccid / Our Hilts Hurt?
You said the E word.
The E word?
Yes, ethics.
Oh, ethics. Oh, that's right. Please talk about ethics. That was
my gosh.
Ethics versus efficiency. What a night that was on Saturday.
Did he ever have a point with why he didn't? No.
It was the requel, sequel, reboot discussion, but worse.
Oh, way worse.
It's like a Star Wars Sith conversation. What is this?
Go ahead, next.
So what it was is that there was some kind of it's a YouTube style beef about ethics versus efficiency between two people. Well, Leon, I'm good friends with, but I did know this other guy, and it was planned for them to come on a Saturday night show live and like sort of hash things out.
Okay.
And I didn't really understand any of it. I wasn't involved in the beef. I was just kind of hosting it, and it got off the rails pretty quickly because the guy I didn't know, he didn't know what his argument was,
Okay.
and
So you're just talking to talk.
he was just talking. It was a clout thing, I think. He wanted to get attention, and I guess maybe he did. And he was his point. I said his point for him by the end because he couldn't get even off the ground with his argument. But he was feeling that Leon should be doing more ethical research and showing that when he presents a video, instead of doing videos for efficiency's sake to get them out 3 a day like YouTube wants you to do.
Right.
And that was what he was arguing, but he just was doing it with kind of name calling, and so Leon was name calling, and then when they were done, Hypnotic jumped in, and I mean that was kind of a bit of a savaging he gave poor Vincent. And yeah, that was that. But there was supposed to be a debate. It got off the rails, and it was almost 4 hours long. So thanks for setting that up, Flaccid. That was great. Appreciate you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was interesting. I like doing those kinds of things, but you just never have any idea how it's going to go. Deborah Cohen, good to see you. We got lots. What's the matter? I read that right.
Yeah, what's the matter?
What's the matter? Gabatino Cavalmanche, got that one too. Sketch is here. Sketch was on last week. Thanks, Sketch. Odega's awesome. Thanks for coming. And that's everyone for now. Yeah, so it was an interesting show, Cameron. People call it peak YouTube entertainment, but by the end, my brain was completely fried. Like I couldn't even hardly talk anymore because it was so long for that much.
Kept me up till
non-debate.
2:30 in the morning afterwards.
Yes.
A lot of us were like, we're screaming at our iPad or phone or TV, like, what are you doing? So yeah.
But it got great views.
Poor guy.
Like that's what it is. So whatever.
I still
take
stand by the fact that guy probably had a really good cry afterwards.
Yes. I mean, I hope he almost cried during the show. But
Yes.
Cameron,
Yep.
you have been working on a book, and you've done a lot of research, and you've given me quite a bit of photos here.
It's
So
not a book. Well, at least it's not a book right now. It's a movie.
I thought it was a book as well. You're doing, or am I announcing
Not
that
I mean,
prematurely?
everything I do can always be spun off into a book. I've spun off 2 movies into books, right? That's always possible. But what I wrote right now is a feature script to be made into a movie. Yeah.
And it's about Norma Jean, much prior to Marilyn Monroe, and her first wedding, first relationship, her first husband, probably the one you should have stayed with. And and you've been using interesting sources to get information to help you put that together.
Yeah.
Some supernatural sources in some cases.
Yeah.
You
And
could say a ghost writer.
oh,
Ooh, yeah.
you could
Well,
say
I mean,
that.
I'm going to say this. There has been literal ghostwriting because, it's one of those moments where this project, I mean, I finished the script 3 weeks ago, gave it to my agents, and they loved it,
Oh, you're done now.
Oh, I'm done. No, it's done. It's a done script. It's out in the marketplace. We're waiting to hear what's going to happen with it, but so it's out. But
Right.
yeah, it's done. But when I was writing it, I would it's one of those projects where I would wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning against my will and be suddenly jumping up out of bed and writing scenes that were flowing in my head. I was like, what's happening here, right? Like literally I couldn't go to sleep unless I wrote the scenes of dialogue. And then a couple of days later, I'd be looking at some book or the historical research, whatever, and I would find the historical incident that the scene is about, and I would discover that the dialogue I had written is what is in the historical record as to what they actually said in that moment. And I didn't know that, right? It's like that. So there's clearly some psychic or ghostly whispering going on here. Like, this is how the scene happened. And it's and anyone who's written art and discovered this kind of channeling, I'm sure everyone on this panel had experiences like that in their life, will understand it.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay. Has that ever happened to you before with a project?
For this project, I mean, it's happened throughout this project, and it's been weird synchronicities and signs throughout the whole thing. It just doesn't stop. A perfect example. I don't know if I mentioned this last time I talked. So if you guys see my lovely view back there, right? Okay, see all the lovely view. That's Santa Monica. That's the Malibu Park. Just beyond the trees is the beach, right? That's where we are. The ocean.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So directly beyond these trees, where I'm pointing, right opposite of me, is we're on a bluff. We're on the Santa Monica bluff, about 100 feet.
There we go.
above the beach, right? For about 100, you can't see the beach right because we're 100 feet above it. We're on a bluff,
Yep.
right? It's a cliff. So right at the end of that is the wall. You look down the cliff and you see the beach and you see the extremely expensive 10, 15, $20 million houses on the beach directly below, right? The bluff, right? And so right where I'm pointing, opposite from my window, I learned something. So as when I was going through doing research for my script on Marilyn Monroe, young Norma Jean, I was reading about her experiences later in life, with the Kennedys and the people that introduced her to the Kennedys, right? So the person who introduced her to the Kennedys was a guy from Frank Sinatra's Rat Pack, an actor called Peter Lawford. All right. And so he was up there, with Sammy Davis Jr. They're all part of that Rat Pack, right? And so Lawford was married to one of JFK's sisters, so that he was part of the Kennedy family, right? So he introduced Marilyn to JFK and to Bobby, and apparently she had affairs with both men, right? Which, in my opinion, led to a very bad outcome for her. So I'm reading this historical book about their relationship and Peter Lawford and whatever, and I'm reading this, and suddenly I freeze because it says, well, she would meet with JFK and Bobby to have to get together, hook up, have affairs in his house, in his beach house in Santa Monica. And I looked at the address and said, no, that can't be right. I know that address. That address is directly opposite my home. It's the house that's on the bottom of this bluff right
That's
here.
cool.
Ooh,
That's
that's crazy.
Above the Lawford home where she slept with JFK and Bobby, and where I think her murder was planned, because I do believe she was killed, where I think that was plotted. I've been living above it for 15 years and never knew it. It's my neighbor. I had no idea. I was like, that address, I know that address. That address is right there. That can't be possible. Right. I'm exactly opposite of this place, and I've been all these years, never knew it.
We have a good idea in the chat. So when this is made, I don't know who you have in mind, Cameron, but
I'll tell you.
I'll fix this. But Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, so this person knows. Sydney Sweeney is is the ideal person for me to cast as Marilyn Monroe. She's the person because she's perfect. Aside from the fact she's extremely lovely, there's another reason, right? There's a lot of lovely young actresses, and I would love for the ladies to speak up on this, on what they think of Sweeney. But the reason that I want to cast her is because she is very parallel to Norma Jean in many ways. Norma Jean was a working class girl with huge ambitions to be a star. Sydney Sweeney is a small town girl from Spokane, Washington, right? She ain't from some big Hollywood family, and she was intensely ambitious. And she wanted to come to Hollywood. And like Norma Jean, she's like, well, I've got a beautiful body and big breasts, and that will get me attention. And it did, right? But also like Norma Jean, what she did was, I'm just using my body to get attention and advance in Hollywood. However, my goal is to be a serious actress and to be a producer and a leader. And so Sydney's already done that. Last year, she produced 2 huge movies. Right, she produced that Anything But You romantic comedy that made a lot of money, right? With Glenn Powell, who's becoming the biggest star in Hollywood now. As Twisters, he's become the movie star, right? And then she also made what I thought was a very effective horror film that was like about
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Thank you so much. Thank you. I liked it. I liked her a lot. And she produced those movies. She's 25 years old, and she had 2 successful movies she produced last year that she starred in. That's exactly the ambition that Norma Jean had, right? And so I was like, this woman's perfect. And that's not inaccurate, this statement. So.
I don't see her as exploiting herself at all. I think that she seems like a very intelligent young woman, aside from looks, and she's using that to her advantage. It doesn't seem like she's being victimized.
I think Marilyn was more victimized. I think Sydney is more in control of her destiny than Norma Jean was.
Like you said, she's producing her own films already.
Yeah, Norma Jean did it until she was 30. She went through 10 years of being the bombshell and essentially being trapped in that persona. And by the time she tried to get out of it, it was very hard for her. Where Sydney's transitioned very quickly out.
Can you tell us who else you'd have in mind?
Well, that's the thing. Ideally, and hopefully we'll talk about both these people. So the first husband was this guy, Jim Dougherty. And I sent you some pictures. You have pictures, we can put them up.
I do.
He was her first husband. He was a factory worker in Boy Next Door in Van Nuys. He was a factory worker, and then he went on to the Merchant Marines during World War II. And afterwards, he became an LAPD cop. We're not just talking about your meter maid. He was like a sniper. He was like the top LAPD cop. He ended up there. That's a picture that she took. Norma Jean took on the Santa Monica beach where he was sleeping, and he's a really handsome guy, right? He was he's a movie star, good looks guy, right? I mean, she married a couple other dudes. They weren't good looking like this guy was. This guy actually acted before. He acted with Jane Russell. right? That's when he was in the Merchant Marines. That's them in Catalina, which is over there. That's when he was in the Merchant Marines. That's when they're married and living in Catalina. And he was a really good looking guy. He was like movie star good looks. Like, this is perfect. By the way, there's a history to this photo. Let's see this photo up for a second. So this is him.
Yeah.
Like, just a good looking dude, right? This is a good, and and so the history of this photo is this. These photos were discovered hidden inside of a framed picture of Marilyn Monroe's foster mother she was closest to, Anna Lower, who is a very sweet, gentle, loving woman who took care of her. A lot of her foster families didn't treat her very well. This woman took very good care of her, was the only real mother figure she had, aside from her own mother, who was very sick. And so after their divorce, Marilyn Monroe went out of her way to erase Jim because nice working class LAPD cop doesn't fit her image. Like, being homemaker to that guy doesn't fit the image she was creating. So she erased him. Like, people didn't know anything about him. And she went out of her way to say, well, I didn't really love the guy. It was an early marriage. We're done. And that's the official narrative that people still have, that this was not a real marriage. It's not true, but that was the PR narrative she created. And here's one of the little evidences. After she divorced him, and literally, he didn't do anything wrong. Literally, he had no idea divorce was coming. He thought they were in a very happy marriage, and suddenly he gets divorce papers while he's overseas because she got a movie offer, and they're like, "No, you can't be married. We need you to be single for this. We can't have you get pregnant." And dudes need to believe that they could have a chance at you if you're married. We can't have that. So she left him for the role, or at least left him for the job. And the third was she destroyed all her photos of him. That's not true. She hid her photos of him. These were found after her death, hidden inside of her photos of the woman that she loved the most. She hid all of his photos in the frame. Like, she couldn't let go of them, which is women pipe in. You tell me. I don't know. As a guy, I'm interpreting that she still had feelings for him. Am I wrong? Maybe a woman will have a different interpretation of a woman would hide these photos when she's officially erased them and not destroy them. Ladies, what do you think? What do you think happened here?
Nadia, you go.
I have no idea. I don't know much about Marilyn's history or any of this. Lady B might know more so.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. It kind of, this is gonna sound horrible, but it kind of reminds me of how like my aunt really, really, really liked my ex-husband for some reason. Okay. And she kind of did the same thing. And I'm like, dude, I'm over that. I don't know if this was that or something else. Like, it's really hard to say.
I mean, we don't know. I mean, she was a complicated person with a lot of contradictions. My instinct is because she went out of her way to erase him, and I'm going to use the term Marilyn Monroe erased him. Norma Jean and Marilyn Monroe are different personalities. We'll talk about that if we get to their zodiac charts. They are fundamentally different personalities. They were, I really do believe she was suffering from what we would today call dissociative identity disorder or multiple personalities. I believe these were actually two different personalities. It wasn't just like two different aspects of a person. I don't think that's what it was. Marilyn Monroe erased him. Norma Jean didn't erase him. Norma Jean loved this guy, and she kept his photo. But whatever. But to go back to your question, I would actually like to repair up Sydney with Glenn Powell because he's another featured, good-looking dude like this guy was, right? And I think they have an incredible chemistry.
Was she bipolar at all? Is there any evidence of her being bipolar?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of her life, she was with several psychiatrists who were really quacks, right? But they diagnosed her, right? And they were really quacks. They were like, psychiatrists in the 60s were like, these people are treating her inappropriately. Like they would have her final psychiatrist would have her come live with him, which is really inappropriate. Yes, you see her accent?
Just a little bit. Yeah.
In 1962, and people are like, he's like, come live with me. I mean, that's not treatment. That's exploitation, right? But whatever.
Yeah.
Weirdos. I'm sorry.
No, we were both saying we're both agreeing with you.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weirdo stuff. But she was living with him, and he was like psychoanalyzing her, right? Whatever. And so, but whatever. But they diagnosed her as bipolar. More specifically, they diagnosed her as paranoid schizophrenic by the end of her life, right? She was really, her mind was falling apart. But I mean, there's a lot of actual evidence of actual dissociative identity disorder. Even Jim saw it when they were married when she, for 4 years, from teen, married her when she was 16 and divorced at 20. And even then he noticed, he wrote in his memoir that there were times in their marriage where she would just sit there and suddenly blank out and stare at the wall. And he knew her mother was mentally ill. He knew her mother was schizophrenic and was in a mental institution. So he was always nervous about it. He was always looking out for any signs that she needed help. And she would just zone out and she would become a different personality and like completely radically different, and then would switch back to the sweet, gentle girl he knew. So he had documented it, and also we'll see her handwriting. We have letters she wrote that of her handwriting as Norma Jean, it's radically different handwriting than Marilyn Monroe's handwriting. And that's another sign that this was another person. Like, I mean, your handwriting doesn't change that radically, right?
I want to ask Nadia a question, actually, to follow up what you asked her before. And that's, so when you were borrowing guys for their HBO, did you save any pictures of those gentlemen and hide them anywhere? Nadia. Is Chris watching?
He's probably watching, but no,
Oh.
I did not. No, I did not. And one was a producer for a big TLC show, but
Oh.
no, I did not. No, I did not.
You can tell us. We'll keep a secret.
No,
Yeah, secret on live TV, right? Yeah.
I
Live
signed
TV.
an NDA.
Oh,
I
damn.
knew what he was doing. So.
Smart man.
Sorry,
Uh,
Chris. Sorry, babe.
So this is actually one of my favorite pictures. This is a picture that was taken on March 15, 1946. He had just come back on shore leave from World War II, right? And this is literally just a few months before she'd served him the divorce papers. He didn't see it coming. As far as he knew, this was the love of his life. She was in love with him. They were happy together. They would go out and dance. He loved dancing. They would go out dancing all the time. They're at this nightclub. This is one of my favorite pictures of them together.
So what else should I bring up here, Kevin? I got a bunch of pictures here from you. Anything specific
Well-
you want to see right now?
Well,
or
at some
to go
point,
for this?
whenever, I mean, what I did was because we talked a little bit last time about sort of psychic readings that I had some friends of mine. What I'd love to do, Nadia and Lady B and Lord B, any of you are proficient in astrology? Because I've done the astrological charts of these two, and a chart comparing them. Right?
Not of that level of astrology.
I was going
Well,
to
at some
say,
point today, I'd love to analyze it. I'm sorry, Lord?
I was going to say, no, hit us with it. This looks fascinating.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So this is this is actually what we pulled up here is Jim's chart. If you want, we can discuss it. I mean, this is because I did an astrological chart for Jim, this is Jim Dougherty.
And this is hers here? Is that
this
right?
is Jim. This is hers. No, this is not. This is their composite chart of their relationship.
Oh, cool.
There's
Okay.
a third. There's another one. You'll see if you pull up the third chart that I sent you. Yeah.
Mhm.
All I know about this stuff is I'm a cusp. That's all I know.
What are you on the cusp of, Nadia? What are the cusp of? That's the chart. That's
I'm born right on the Aries Pisces.
of your sun sign. Of your sun sign.
Yeah, of
So
like
you-
my zodiac sign, birth sign, whatever.
Well,
Yeah,
so you're
yeah.
like around March 21st, 22nd kind of
I'm
thing.
20th. I'm March
All right, so
20th.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
Right. That would be
Yeah.
the cusp. Okay. Cool. So all right. Well, this thing, if there's people in the chat who know more about astrology, so what I did was I mean, I don't claim to be an expert astrologer, but I've learned enough to talk a little bit about it, and so I did this astrological chart of Marilyn Monroe. We have her birth certificate. We even have Jim's birth certificate. So I did his chart, and then I did what's called a composite chart, where you meld their charts and see what their relationship was like. And it blew me away because each chart this chart I'm going to go through it if you guys want, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, please.
This chart really explains who she was and her inner contradictions, and then Jim's explains him, and the composite chart just say, yeah, Jana Banana, it is the best show you. The composite
Thank you,
chart
Jana.
really explains their relationship in ways that it's almost like it was a destined relationship, and even their breakup was kind of destined in a tragic way, right? What was that last thing? Still blows me away. Yeah. So that, I mean, she it was because it was an alter personality. She could turn it on, but later in life, it literally took her over. I mean, we're talking about this woman, Norma Jean. The Marilyn Monroe you all saw in movies isn't Norma Jean. Literally, that's not even her voice. Like her famous sultry voice, her actual voice was very high pitched, childlike. That Jim wrote about that. And then it was very child. And then she had this very sultry, sexy voice, right, as Norma Jean, as Marilyn Monroe. And that's something she created as Marilyn Monroe. It was because she had a stutter. She had a stuttering problem. It was a big problem for her. She would start stuttering, and so the studio forced her to change her voice, like practice voice lessons, and to create an alternative voice that was slower to control her stuttering and also create this sort of sexy persona. This poor woman, 24 hours a day, had to use this other voice that wasn't her natural voice for the rest of her life. I mean, she had to take on this persona all the time, and it left no space for her to be herself. It added to her depression. Like nobody was interested in Norma Jean at all. They were interested in the Marilyn art that she created. But the moment she would show them Norma Jean, they would lose interest. Except for Jim, who never knew Marilyn. He only knew Norma Jean. So he was like, he said literally the day of their divorce is the day she got the name Marilyn Monroe from Fox, right? He never knew her. He says, I can tell everything about Norma Jean. I can't tell you anything about Marilyn Monroe. I never knew her.
I think these look like gang symbols to me. I don't know what. Like, I have no idea what any of this
Well,
is.
let me look at this. All right, so this is an astrological chart, and what it does is divided into 12 houses, which is sort of how the constellations of the sky are divided. So let's look at the where the letters ACR. You both is better. That's right. The letter ACR. That's on what is the left of the screen, right? You see that? So that is where the chart begins. The AC is the ascendant, and so right. If you pull it, so you see AC is the ascendant, right? And so that's the eastern horizon at the moment you're born. And so that determines essentially how you see the world, how the world sees you. People call it like your social mask, right? But it's your paradigm of the world. You know, like Nadia, you were saying that you were on the cusp of Pisces and Aries. That's your sun sign. That's your conscious sense of yourself. But you'll have a different, probably a different ascendant, which reflects how you see the world and how the world sees you. So people who get to know you might be surprised if people have a initial reaction to you that's often like, well, I'm not really that person. But all of us have, like, people make first judgments of us and then they get to know us and like, oh, you're not exactly what I thought, right? We all have that. It's because the ascendant is your automatic defense against the world. So it's the personality you put out there. And in this case, her if the symbol that you're seeing right next to it, AC, that red line, that squiggly red line, that's Leo. So her ascendant, Marilyn, Norma Jean's ascendant, was the sign of Leo, which is the sign of the movie star. Literally, it's the sign of the lion, the center of attention, the queen, right? And she was all those things. Like, she was always like, where even Jim said, even when they were together, she would walk into a room, all eyes would go to her, right? It was just instinctive. Like, she became the center of attention, even if she didn't want it, right? Just because she had this regal ascendant, her destiny, so that's a lot of actors and actresses have this. It's the performer, right? And so it's no surprise that Marilyn Monroe has that. But there's two things on that ascendant that I want to point out to that explain, like, we all know that Marilyn is famous for, people always say that, you know, what do people say when they talk about Marilyn Monroe? That they love that she seems so vulnerable. Like, I think a lot of women say, I empathize with her because she seems so vulnerable, right? And so Leo is not a vulnerable sign. It's a sign of power and like creativity and expression. But so why do we see her as this very vulnerable, dreamy girl? I'll tell you, it's in her sign. So just underneath AC, you see that little trident, that green trident? That's the sign of Neptune, the planet Neptune. And that is in her first house, the house of her personal appearance. So Neptune is the sign of sort of illusions and of romance and of mysticism and of magic. And so that's what she exudes. Marilyn Monroe exudes this like weird mystical energy, right? And it's also a sign of sensitivity. That's the planet that rules Pisces. So it's a sign of real sensitivity, vulnerability. And that's exactly how we perceive her. We perceive her as a very almost childlike, vulnerable woman that everyone wants to protect. Like when she got her break in Hollywood, the casting director said, it wasn't because she was beautiful. There are a lot of beautiful girls. Once because she was sexy, a lot of sexy girls. But the moment they saw her, they're like, this woman exudes neediness and vulnerability, and everyone is going to want to hug her just to protect her, which is still her persona. So that's why she's going to become a star. Everyone's going to look at her. Yes, Nadia.
AC, is that ascending sign? Is that what they're called?
Ascendant, the rising sign. It's what's rising.
Yeah, the rising sign. Okay,
I'm
a Gemini.
I looked this up for myself at one point in time. I'm a Scorpio, so.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. So Gemini is great. Gemini rising is great. Ginger Rogers, the great actress Ginger Rogers, had that. Gemini risings never age. You'd be 80 years old. You know, the Gemini rising.
No, look at Nadia with the
they don't age. They're eternal. And Lady B, Scorpio rising does not surprise me, right? It is the sign of intensity. You know, danger, mystery, right? You know, a race car driver would have that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
So the other thing that I want to show you in her chart, right, is look right above the letters AC. You see a little symbol that looks like a crescent moon with a cross underneath it?
Yep.
Okay, little gray symbol. That's really important for her because that is this point in the chart called the Lilith. And in her case, Lilith is exactly on her. Like if you see, it's lined up exactly with the ascendant. It's exactly connected to her destiny point.
Does that help, Cameron? Go zoom in.
Yeah, that helps. So you see, okay. Lilith is exactly. You know, she had ascendant at 13 degrees Leo, and Lilith is 12. So they're basically right next to each other, right on top of each other. Yep. And Lilith is the part of everyone's got it in their chart. The Lilith represents the part of us that's sort of the untamed emotional side. right? It's the side. It's what you would call like the dark feminine. You know, if you
Ooh.
like, yeah, and it's like the Hindu goddess Kali, which is this uncontrollable, incredibly dangerous, incredibly powerful force. It's like a raging river, right? It's not the aspect of femininity that's the gentle, sensitive, nurturing. It's the opposite. It's the enraged woman getting revenge. That's the power of
see.
Lilith, right? And so Bible, it comes out of the Bible. Deborah Cohen's right. It comes out of the Jewish tradition that Lilith was actually the first wife of Adam. That's a Jewish tradition that Adam had a first wife that was his equal. Eve was born from Adam's rib, but Lilith was born from the same mud that Adam was. So they were equals. And then when it came time to copulate, they couldn't agree on who would be on top. That's the Jewish story. Adam wanted to be on top as the sort of domineering man, and she said, "No man's going to be on top of me. That's not going to happen, right? I'm on top. I'm on top." And they couldn't. And because they're both wanted to be the powerful in the relationship, they couldn't be. There was no passive and receptive to balance it. It didn't work. And so Lilith, in rage, the story is she left Eden. She said, "Screw you, screw Adam. I'm out. I'm not going to be his subservient servant." And she's out, and she leaves. And the story is that she then goes out into the desert, and she starts like copulating with. I mean, this is a Jewish legend. She starts copulating with like demons to get back at Adam. Like, she won't have sex with him, but she'll have sex with like these terrible demons, and she starts having demons spawn, right? And then God punishes her for doing this by killing her children. So she gets angry and enraged when she finds out that Adam is now with this new woman, Eve, who's willing to play the passive role in the relationship, the mother role, right? And so now that God has killed her children, she decides to get revenge on Adam and Eve. So she starts killing the children of Adam and Eve. So this is an ancient legend going back to the Sumerians, pre-Bible, that Lilith, they found anti-Lilith amulets in Sumerian households that they would put up on babies' cribs to protect the baby from Lilith. The idea is Lilith would come and cause sudden infant death syndrome. She would kill your baby, right? So Lilith was seen as, again, that's not the positive femininity. That's the powerful, unstoppable, revenge, destructive femininity, right? It's also pure sexuality. It's all like, I'm going to do what's right for me. I don't care if it affects anybody else, right? And so that's on her ascendant. That's her destiny. So if you think, what do we think of Marilyn Monroe? We think of her as the quote-unquote sex goddess, right? That's what we imagined her to be. That's Lilith. Lilith is the unstoppable sex goddess that all men worship, which is what Lilith wanted. Lilith wanted Adam to worship her. She didn't want Adam on top of her. All men, like if you said gentlemen prefer blondes, whatever, all the men are basically kowtowing to her. That's Lilith, right? But there's a dark side to Lilith as well, because Lilith only cares about itself. And that gets the dark feminine. The light feminine cares about children and nurturing and others, right? Lilith's like, fuck everybody else. My needs are the only needs that matter. And if I have to trample on your needs, good. She shouldn't have gotten my way. And those who knew Marilyn privately said Marilyn was very much like that. When she was sweet Norma Jean, she was lovely. But then if her ambition or anything was thwarted, this other side would come out that was incredibly intense, very dangerous, very vindictive, very vengeful. She would turn to a shocking other person. And there's another sad darkness to that, is that Lilith is about children dying. And so she had multiple failed pregnancies. She could never have a child because Lilith couldn't have a child, right? So there's this weird direct parallel to her. And ultimately Lilith is an energy it's like lightning, It can light up a city and it can destroy you. And it did both. Like, it created Marilyn Monroe and made her this immortal, iconic sex goddess, right? It also killed her, right? Because ultimately it's the same person that goes, you know what?
Right.
JFK and Bobby Kennedy screwed me over, and I'm going to get revenge on them. And that revenge kind of leads to her death, right? There are certain forces that Lilith couldn't defeat God, And so Marilyn Monroe went up against the Kennedys and it didn't work out for her. Like, there was a force greater than her, and, it killed her. Right. So that's side of it.
Okay. So Cameron, I don't know what this I don't know what this term is. Is this relating to the
devouring mother? Yeah. It is that energy, right? And because a lot of and again, I don't want to offend anyone in the chat who's watching, because Lilith has been taken as a symbol for a lot of feminist groups, the Lilith fairs, whatever, that they take it as a very positive symbol. I don't need no man. Women don't need this. Women need to be free of this. And I don't want to take that interpretation away from you. I'm just giving you the traditional historical interpretation, and you can say you're being unfair at how it is. I mean, I think Lilith is power, but power, it's like the Sith. Lilith can give you power, but it can also destroy you. And I think that is Lilith. That's the opposite of sort of, positive femininity. Negative femininity is much more dangerous than negative masculinity. It's much more terrifying, I think.
Okay. That's yeah, this is all new to me, so I'm just kind of enjoying this.
Yeah, this
talking
is
through this.
interesting.
It's
I've
really
never
cool.
gone deep down this way.
No.
All right, well, let's go a little bit up here. So I wanted to go up here. See that little that red circle with the little thing underneath it, right? You see that right above where which says red circle and then the little crescent underneath it. Do you see what I'm pointing? It's right there. Okay, you see that? So it's that's the symbol for Pluto, right? And it is, if you just scroll a little bit up, I want to show the sign it's in. Pluto is in the little blue thing in the house. That's Cancer, and so so Pluto is in Cancer, and it's in what's called the 12th house. And Pluto in the 12th, so Pluto in Cancer, Pluto is a sign of power and destruction. It's similar to Lilith, but it's sort of like the masculine Lilith, right? And again, Pluto can be focused. Lilith can't be focused. Lilith is unstoppable, right? Pluto, you can like focus like a laser, but Lilith is just like, it's like a raging river. You can't control it. But Pluto, so it's a force of destruction and resurrection, and it's in her sign of Cancer, which is a sign of the home and family. And so she came from a broken home. Her father abandoned her before she was born. Her mother was mentally ill and basically put her up for foster homes the day she was born, right? And she went from one foster home to the other. She was probably sexually abused in some of these homes. So she had a broken home her entire life. And so that was all she knew. And then she had this marriage to Jim, to a very decent, normal guy who wanted to have kids with her, and just that's what they were going to live, a nice, normal, working class life in Van Nuys, right? Two good-looking people in Van Nuys living a working class life as factory workers, right? And that was a period of 4 years of absolute stability, but she never knew stability. She didn't even know how to process it. She went her entire life from like literally every 2 months, she's in a new home. That's her entire life. She never could bond with anybody. She never knew stability, right? And then every 3 months, she's in another home. And then the reason Jim was her next door neighbor. And at 16, her foster family was leaving the state, and she was going to be sent back to the orphanage. And, 16-year-old girl in the orphanage. I mean, she was like, and he had already come to really like her. I mean, she was an attractive girl next door. He thought she was really smart and pretty. And they were like, yeah, literally the boy next door. He would drive her to school every day because he had a car. So his mom asked him, can you drive Norma Jean to school? So he would drive her to school. So they got to know each other. And, and he said, you know what, if she's going to be sent back to the orphanage, I like her, I can marry her. And then she's free, because if she's married, she's no longer ward of the state, right? Then she has control over her life. And Norma Jean agreed to it. And also because I really think she really liked him. He was a good looking guy. He was the catch. He was the high school football team, champion. He was the president of the student body. He was that kind of guy, right? And he was like a young budding actor, very attractive. So for a girl with no family, this is like a catch. It's like this is the girl everybody in the neighborhood, the guy everyone in the neighborhood wanted. And he's like, I like you. You want to get married, and then we'll be together. And so she marries him. But then she's not used to any kind of stability. So she has 4 years of stability, and she finds it kind of boring because all she knows is instability. And then the moment Hollywood comes, Pluto is a sign of destruction. She destroys their family without any warning, without anything. She just divorces him and runs off to Hollywood. And it completely devastates him. He doesn't see it coming. Like one day he's married, getting love letters from her, and the next day he's divorce papers, right? And it's because her sign of the home is in the planet of destruction rules the sign of home. She never had a stable life. When she had one, she destroyed it. She willingly destroyed it because that's all she knew. And then she spent the next 16 years after that, relationship to relationship, casting couch. She married again to a couple of guys that were very abusive. Joe DiMaggio used to hit her. That marriage lasted only 9 months. Then she married Arthur Miller, and he psychologically abused her. That marriage lasted a few years. Then by the end, when she divorced him, she was suicidal, right? So she only knew instability. Those other marriages she had that were unstable and abusive, that was what she was comfortable with, because that's all she ever knew as a child. With Jim, she didn't know how to process it. Like, what do you do with a guy that's not hitting you, that's not cheating on you? It's just like, hey, honey, let's go watch a movie together. I mean, she didn't understand that stability, and so she walked away from it.
Well, and she was also encouraged, wasn't she? Required to walk away from him too.
Yeah, Hollywood said, if you want to come to Hollywood, you have to drop your husband. There's 2 reasons. One is Hollywood. She was offered a contract at 20th Century Fox, and they found out she was married. Like, no husband. We need people to believe that they have a shot at the beautiful girl on screen. So husband with that. But they told her bluntly, you can't have kids. because we're going to invest a lot of money into making you a starlet. This was the contract. She would be under a multi-year contract, and they would invest a lot of money in giving her acting classes and all this stuff. And like, no, if you leave to have a kid, that screws us up. Remember, the Norma Jean wanted children. Marilyn was like, no, I don't need children. I just want to be famous, right? And so Marilyn took that deal. Norma Jean, had to let go of having children. But the other thing that was happening was she had been discovered as a model while Jim was away at war. And, she was working in a factory, and a photographer took a picture of her and then thought she's incredibly beautiful, sent it to some modeling agents. One of them represented her. Now, here's the thing. The modeling agents are the ones that connected her to Hollywood, right? Because she became a famous model very quickly because she's so attractive, and it was really just a natural model. Yeah. The thing that happens here is the modeling agent, now historians know, the modeling agent was running a call girl operation. So the modeling, what a shock. Models and call girls, it's known to happen.
Unbelievable.
It's known to happen in history, right? It might still be happening today, right? But she was running a call girl operation where the modeling was just pretty girls on the cover of magazines that rich men would pay for, right? Never happened in history before. So, and Norma Jean was their top model. So she's like, I need this girl on my roster of working girls. Like, there's a lot of rich men that'll pay to sleep with her, right? And now she's married to a guy who's going to become a cop. That's not going to be good for the call girl operation. Right, it's going to be really bad, right? If you saw LA, did any of you see LA Confidential? Have you ladies seen it? So this is
Lady B. You seen it?
LA Confidential?
Oh yeah, like a long time ago.
No.
Nadia, have you seen it?
Of course not.
Of course not.
That's a long story, Cameron.
Okay,
yeah, I'll add it to the list.
Okay, so yeah, it's like okay, fine, but it is one of the greatest movies ever made. It really is one of the classic movies.
Okay.
And you watch it like, how come I've never seen this movie before? I mean, I watched it relatively recently. I was like, oh my God, how could I have not watched the movie before?
I just saw Terminator for the first time Monday. So I'm catching up. Okay.
Okay, I get it. Okay, if you just saw Terminator, you got a while to go.
Cameron, her list of movies she hasn't seen is like a best of almost.
All right. It's like the AFI best of films list. We got to get to Nadia. So all right. But LA Confidential is on that list, and LA Confidential is set in this period in the 1940s and 50s about the LAPD in Hollywood, right? And it shows that they were more dangerous than the mafia. Like, these guys, you mess with the LAPD, imagine that she was married to an LAPD officer in 1946 and some studio exec hit on her. The cops would show up at his house and put a gun to his head, right? And like leave drugs in the house, that they would plant on him to send him to jail. Like, you don't mess with one of the cops' wives. So this is a problem. Like, her husband's about to join the police force. They had to get her out of this, right? Because it can't have it. The police intersecting with call girls and casting couch. It ain't gonna work, right? So they told her, baby, this guy's a loser. He's nothing. You're about to become famous. You can marry Cary Grant. Forget this guy. And she's young and she's ambitious, and she's like, he's a sweet guy, and but that's fine. I need to go do this, and she did it. But the
Cameron, that story reminds me of a story you told before about some producers' tactics now in Hollywood. If you want to sign someone else's guy to something, you might get a visit paid to your house.
Yeah,
it's mafia style.
Mafia style hasn't changed. I mean, it's just more hidden, right? Before it was open, right? But yeah, the other thing that I want to point about this red sign, the Pluto, is that it's what I call the 12th house. It's in the 12th house, which is the house of the subconscious mind. It's what you're not aware of. It's a part of your mind that you're suppressed and is hidden inside of you, and it appears off. I'm sorry?
I'm trying to figure out, how do I find this out? 12th sign. I want to know.
If you're Gemini, you're likely to be Taurus 12th house. You're likely to be Taurus 12th house.
Taurus 12th house. Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
So the 12th house is the part that you have difficulty accessing, right? And yeah, Deborah Cohen's right. The LAPD was corrupt. FBI was corrupt, right? And so it's just like this. LAPD is corrupt and Hollywood is corrupt. And which one is more dangerous? The guys who legally have the guns is more dangerous, right? And so that, LAPD shows up at a producer's house, they're done, right? So with this Pluto in our 12th house, so what happens is whatever planet is in your 12th house represents the subconscious part of you that's hidden, that you're not aware of, and that you aren't comfortable with, and will haunt you unless you come to terms with it. So if the planet Pluto is there, Pluto is a planet of destruction and of the underworld and of darkness. So guess what?
Right.
All of her subconscious was this damage from her childhood, the sexual abuse, the loss of her parents, all this stuff, right? And she suppressed all of it in her subconscious. And because she wouldn't deal with it, it appeared in the form of all of these scumbags. Like, the moment she left Jim, I mean, reading her biography is just stunning. The day she leaves Jim, she goes from a simple housewife to basically casting couch queen with all of these scumbags. I mean, the litany of scumbags she met in just the immediate aftermath of going to Hollywood is shocking. And after that, she has no good. She's world famous, and they're all scum. All of her friends are scum. All of her people in her life are scum. I mean, they're like criminal scum, right? Like that psychiatrist who's like, "Hey, baby, why don't you come live with me and I'll psychoanalyze you," right? I mean, these are scum. These are scumbags, right? And they mess with her, and they mess with her mind. They mess with her body. They use her body. They use her mind. It's because she could not come to terms with her own darkness that she then created all these characters in her life that reflected that darkness.
How long had you treated her before she agreed to move in with him? Just curious.
Just a few months. She had been put in a mental hospital against her will by her previous psychiatrist, right? Who was a quack. Was also a quack, right? And guess what? That psychiatrist convinced her to put her in the will. It was a female psychiatrist. So when Marilyn died, a lot of her money went to the psychiatrist that put her in a mental hospital.
Oh, really?
Right? You know, this is how
Wow,
bad
she really didn't have anybody looking out for her.
No,
at
nothing.
all.
Her
That's
agent,
sad.
she was sleeping with her agent. Her agent was sleeping with her, right? So her agent, who should be protecting her, is having sex with her, right? And, you know, she has not a single person. All the men are using her for sex. Women are using her for sex. She goes to acting teachers. She's sent to an acting teacher who's a lesbian who basically has her come live with her, right? God. Natasha Lytes, her acting teacher, has her come live with her and has an affair with her. And Natasha wrote later that she started seeing evidence that Marilyn was beginning to hear voices and become schizophrenic. Did she get her any help? No, she didn't take her to a doctor because she didn't want to mess up the money train. They were all scum. The only person in her entire life that wasn't scum was Jim. There was one person. I mean, reading this is shocking. This one sweet guy who was like a decent LAPD cop who's helping abused women, right? And taking care of kids. I mean, he worked with underprivileged kids. This is the one good person, and they all told her to get away from him. Because he
was a sniper, too. He'd be a dangerous guy.
No, he was a very dangerous guy. I mean, he was a good guy, right? But, you know, had like the day she died, August 4th, which I believe she was killed by the goons of the Kennedys, and I think she knew something bad was coming. I'm sorry?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Jim was still an LAPD officer. She was living in here in Brentwood, a 10-minute drive up this road, right? And she could have called Jim and said, "I need help." And even though 16 years later, after she had broken his heart and left him, he got married again. He had kids. He went on with his life, but he still loved her. And had she called him, he would have shown up with LAPD at her house and protected her. But, you know, I think part of it is she was kind of ashamed of how she treated him, right? And so she cut off that relationship.
Gooch Raid. Hey, thanks, Gooch Raid. Woo. Thanks for coming, guys.
When you read the stuff, it is so horrifying. It is so horrifying. The people she met, I mean, it's like Weinstein-level people were all around her all the time. There was not one good person. She didn't have one person say to her, "Honey, don't take those pills. Honey, maybe you're drinking too much alcohol." Not one person said it to her. This guy, when they were married, he started noticing she started drinking after her modeling assignments, and he was like, "Baby, this isn't good for you. Why are you drinking?" He tried to stop this.
It's like really hard for me watching this and just thinking like so much of that would have come out from being like sexually abused.
Mm-hmm.
Like I actually had a friend, and I never thought of this before, which is why I'm kind of like thinking on this. And my friend was sexually abused, and she had DID, and she had like 23 different personalities, and it would be really interesting to see more like information on her, like how she. Because like the thing is that kind of gets me is I can see her creating like Marilyn Monroe as an alter, but like it's kind of not how I know DID to work. Like you don't really decide when you change and switch. But I'm really curious about that. Like if she did change her voice, I've heard people talking about that. Like I'd like to hear Lana Del Rey, and she's spoken about how she changed the way she sings. Mm-hmm. Like a different kind of a style in her voice and stuff like that. I don't think she did it with her talking voice, but I've definitely heard that from other
really
people before. Yeah.
Okay.
Does she have different memories? Did your friends personalities have different memories.
I don't know if they had different memories, but they definitely like she would speak differently when she switched, and she was an artist, and the art she would make was different. And that's where I'm like, oh, this is really interesting.
Well, like I said, her handwriting changed. Like her handwriting is completely different when she's
I could see that, and it is really like it's a like side effect from being abused and having.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I mean, look, she's a unique case. So I do think Norma Jean thought she could create and turn this character on and off, but it was more powerful than her. Lilith is too powerful. Once you let that in, and once you take out your boundaries to it, it takes you over. By the end, she was gone. She was just trapped inside of this personality. She couldn't escape it. Like the final years of her life, I mean, it's just, she could not be herself. I
wonder if she had she would just disassociate because of the abuse. So when you get in this sort of a situation where you have that, you just sort of blitz out.
No. There is evidence of disassociation. Even in Jim's life, even during their marriage, he noted evidence of disassociation, right? And it got worse as she became Marilyn. But actually, last time I talked about one of my psychic friends who read Marilyn, right, helped me with my project, and she came out and she said to me, and she didn't know much about any of this. She just said, "This is what's coming through," and she said Norma Jean would disassociate, and that's how she survived the sexual abuse. When it was happening to her, she would just leave. It was a term. She called it the oomph girl. Like she had the oomph, like the sexiness.
Right.
That was the term she used as a teenager. Like in high school, they called her the oomph girl whenever she turned it on, right? And so whenever she was abused, she would leave, and the oomph girl would have to take it. Right. And so the oomph girl was stronger and could handle the abuse. Right. And so she told me that, and this is what my friend claims. And again, it's a claim of a psychic, but my friend is pretty accurate. And she said, so she claimed, because she hadn't read my script, and I had written a scene in my script where she's facing her death. Right. And she disassociates and actually imagines the life that she could have had with Jim had she just not gone down this path. Right. There's a whole sequence in the movie where she lives another life, which people read in the script and they just start crying because we just go off and see the world she could have had. And I'd written this and my friend hadn't read it. She said, well, so Marilyn, Norma Jean is coming through to me and telling me that she gave you a scene. I was like, what scene? She's like, she disassociated when she was dying. She left her body and imagined a life with Jim. I was like, holy shit, I wrote that.
Oh, that's crazy.
So welcome, Sammy. You look adorable with your glasses on, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm a fan. That looks good.
My wife thinks I look studious. So
you do.
You do.
It's more of a Harry Potter kind of vibe than I'm used to from you.
All right.
I'm not complaining
Sammy and I
at
are
all.
matching. We're both matching.
Whoa, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is cool. It is cool. It
Team
is.
glasses.
They actually are. They're like the right size. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at you. All right.
I got it.
Welcome to we had some Gooch Raid. Thanks for coming, Gooch Raiders. Please, first of all, I want to call this comment. I like this a lot. This is a great comment. All good men are dangerous.
Yes.
I like that.
Certainly in this time period of Hollywood.
Good men have to be. Yep.
They
Good men have to be dangerous. Yep.
Exactly. I mean, look, this guy went off to fight World War II, right? You know,
That's
he's afraid of some fucking overweight 5'2" Hollywood executive, smoking a cigar.
No, definitely not. Welcome, Copa. We got Morgan here. B. Mozart, thanks for coming back after the debate on the weekend. Good to see you here. Eraserhead's here with the raid. Boosh was the first raider, and also John Richards is back. Problematic white guy. You were here first. Appreciate that. Boosh. And then this is someone from your Patreon, Cameron.
Oh, welcome.
Nimanova. Good to see you. Thank you.
No, she's wonderful. Yeah, I've spoken with her before. She's lovely.
All right. And Cope Dog, doing Cope Dog things. You look like Donnie Brasco in his off hours. Okay. Is that who?
It's probably Sammy.
Got to be Sammy.
I hope so. Better
Gotta
be
be
Sammy
Sammy.
Copa.
Do you want to go to another one of the zodiac charts you've got, Cameron?
Sure. Why don't we go to let's go to the Jim. Let's just do a little bit quick pick on Jim so you know what Jim's character was like and why he was good for her and why they were actually drawn together. So can we pull up Jim's chart?
Yeah.
Let's see if you guys can find it.
I got it. I got them all here, but I don't know which one is his.
Try one. That's Jim.
Okay.
All right. So looking at the same thing here, we will see that, remember the AC point that I talked about on the left there? That's ascendant. So Jim's ascendant, his destiny sign is in Sagittarius, which is the sign of the adventurer and the moral quester. So he was always like he was. I mean, he was a guy that was always like expanding his horizons. Like he said, he was football champion, right? Actor, all these things, and ended up being a police officer. But Sagittarius represents someone who's looking for God, who's like looking for a spiritual path. And he found that in service to society, right? Like he could have gone off and become like he was, his partner in the factory ended up becoming a famous movie star, right? So he was like, you should get into the acting. He's like, no, I want to do something more with my life. I want to help people, right? His partner was Robert Mitchum. If any of you know the classic 1950s, 1960s movies, 40s, 50s, 60s, Robert Mitchum was one of the big leading men of Hollywood at that time, and they were working together in the Lockheed factory, right? And then Robert Mitchum got his break into Hollywood. And he's like, Jim, you got to join me. He's like, no, I got to do something else. So this is the path of someone who's on a spiritual path. So exactly, someone on a path of ethics is exactly what she needed in her life, right? And then if we look here, I want to go. If we look, let's see where we can show. So I want to look at so I want to go to the right side of the screen. You will see, if you look just below sort of thing, you'll see a red and pink. There's a red sort of male symbol and a pink female symbol. Do you guys see that? Do you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So that represents Venus and Mars. And in his case, the planet Venus and planet Mars, they're both in the sign of Taurus, which I've got a Venus and Taurus, so I understand it. So this is, the Venus is your loving side, and Mars is how you go after what you want and sort of your masculine energy. So, and they're both in Taurus. And so, and Venus and Taurus is someone who's very in love, because Venus is a sign of how you show love. Someone who's very stable and loving. Like he was a dedicated family man. After, he was planning to live with Norma Jean till he got old and died, right? He was a one-woman guy, right? Even though he could have had a lot of girls because he was a very attractive guy. Yes, Nadia.
How do you, not to be off topic,
Yeah.
Cameron, but how do you create this? Like, how do you put this together?
You can go, there's a lot of
That's a
programs
great question.
online. You can go to AstroTheme. These are from astrotheme.com.
Okay. I was just
And
curious. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. You can both, like Marilyn Monroe's chart is on there. If you type in Marilyn Monroe, her chart will come up. And you can also enter your personal charts. Like Jim's not in there because he's not famous, right? So I had to enter his stuff manually, and it came up, right? And it created that. So yeah, so the Venus and the Mars represents his aggressive energy, right? And so in Taurus, it's very slow and calm. So he didn't get angry easily. He was very stable. So both of these things are exactly what Norma Jean needed. She had no stability in her life, and this guy was earth rock stable, right? He wouldn't cheat on her because he's a handsome guy. He's a sailor away. He had lots of opportunities to cheat on her. It wouldn't have occurred to him because he's a family man. And he was a religious Christian. He couldn't imagine doing it, right? And as a Mars, like he didn't get angry easily. He was very controlled, and so she would have a lot of emotional breakdowns even in their marriage because she had been through a lot, right? And he was a strong, stable dude, the only guy in her entire life that was ever stable, right? And so this is exactly what someone who's had no stability and a life of constant abuse needed, but also
Speaking of strong dudes,
Yeah.
Gooch.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Hey,
Speaking of strong dudes, we got a Gooch in the house.
welcome, Gooch.
Gooch.
I'm sorry. I thought this was a Coyote Ugly review. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Well,
yeah.
A
We have
plus
to
on
get-
effort, D minus on attempt.
How
He
dare
tried to
you?
So we're trying to slip it in. So I want to go. If we can now, we go up just a little bit more. I want to tell you one more thing. Now, if we scroll up, let's scroll
Yep.
up a little. Okay, so stop here. So let's go. Remember that symbol of Pluto? That's the circle with the crescent. You'll see that on the upper right. You see that, right?
Yep.
So that is Pluto is in Cancer like hers, which means that his family, life was very intense. Like as a child, he was very poor. For all of her suffering with foster homes, she actually went to like decent foster homes. Like people had money that took care of her, right? But he was from a very poor family. They literally lived in a tent in the backyard of a Mexican family's house. Now, in LA, imagine social status of you're living in a tent in the backyard of a Mexican, worker's house. That's how poor they were. Right. And from that, he built himself up. So his family life was always like tense. But because he'd experienced that, he wanted to give her a stable family life. But now you look at where his Pluto is. It's in what's called the 7th house, which is the house of relationships. So it is Pluto, remember, is a sign of destruction and intensity and resurrection and the house of relationships. Even though he was a strong, stable guy, he was destined to have this one marriage that would be destroyed and would destroy him. Like he was emotionally destroyed by it because he had no expectation that it would end, right? He hadn't
Right.
done anything to bring it to an end, right?
Yeah.
So this was in his chart that he was going to have this happen to him, and you know, he was scarred for life. But he got married again to a lovely woman who gave him 3 beautiful children. But you know, she was very jealous that he had been married to Marilyn Monroe. Like that was a big issue in their marriage. Like
he's going to hear about that.
Yeah, his wife Pat, second wife, refused to allow him to even mention Marilyn in the house. He never mentioned her name. He never saw any of Marilyn's movies, right, in the theater because he didn't want to upset his wife, right? But it haunted him. And the truth is, Pat wasn't wrong. He never got over her. Like a few weeks before she died, he wrote in his autobiography, and I believe him because he wasn't this sort of like woo-woo psychic guy. He said, in 1962, a few weeks before she died, I started getting this terrible premonition that Norma, he only knew her as Norma, that Norma was going to die. And it wasn't, something terrible was stalking her, was coming to kill her. But I had no way to contact her. She'd cut me off, and I didn't know what to do. And then he got the phone call. This is the tragedy. The police officer, when her body was discovered, right, or planted, whatever it was, her body was found in her house. The police officer that came initially, Jack Clemens, to examine the body and, oh yeah, Marilyn Monroe's dead. She really is dead, right? Jack Clemens is his close friend. Jack had to phone him at 5 a.m. in the morning, wake him up and say, I'm sorry, your ex-wife is dead. I found her body, right? Could you imagine that call? He said it was like he was kicked in the stomach. But he said I also knew it was coming. He said, I knew it was coming. Because Pluto gives you a psychic connection to somebody. So he knew she was going to die, and he knew there was no way to stop it. I mean, it's a horrible thing. It haunted him. This guy lived till 84. He died in 2005. And for 40, 50 years, this haunted him. Like he never got over her.
She'd be tough to get over, let's be honest.
Yeah. But again, he only knew her as the sweet girl next door. He never knew Marilyn Monroe. He's like, I loved her for herself. She was beautiful, and you know, I'm sure they had great sex, but it's like she wasn't a sex pot. She was just my girl. And that's what I lost, is I lost my soulmate. And all of you are worshiping this illusion that wasn't real, but I knew her.
I found my Lilith.
Where's your Lilith? Where's your Lilith, Nadia?
Cancer. Cancer.
Your Lilith is in Cancer. And what house is it in? Can you tell me what house it's in?
I don't know.
If you are Gemini, then it's probably in your 12th
house. 12. Yeah.
You have Marilyn's placement.
Oh shit! Oh no!
No, you actually don't. No, Marilyn and Pluto. You had Lilith in 12th. What that tells me, though.
Nice knowing you.
Yeah. But what it does tell me, though, is that because the 12th house is what is suppressed. Like hers was on her first house. Like you saw her Lilith. She's Marilyn, right? Yours is hidden. It's subconscious. So that means that this dark, dangerous feminine side is very much part of you, but you are not aware of it. And
watch out, gentlemen.
Stay spooky, Nadia.
No, but Nadia, it may take the form of this. Like,
hey, yes, sir.
Do you have I'm going to ask you. You don't have to answer this, but people with this placement tend to have a like bitchy enemies, like women that like hate them and like try to fuck them over for no reason.
Oh.
I plead the fifth because you know what? I will let the answer for me.
Okay, fuck it. Do me next.
I don't do guys cards. There's no fun in that. It's a bore.
I'll send you a chart. Your own.
No, but that's what it is that remember, because she had Pluto, which is a sign of the underworld. So she was surrounded by literally the criminal underworld because she projected it from her subconscious. So with Lilith in your 12th house, you're gonna tend to attract these destructive feminine energy types who are going to be you're going to tend to attract these sort of bitchy women.
Let's keep going.
The webs we
coming
weave.
Out. Yeah, I know, right?
It's because you must come to terms with controlling that power so it doesn't control you. Wow. Those women are a reflection of your subconscious mind.
I mean, that would make sense that growing up, most of my close friends have been men. Like I like hanging out with men more than women. I mean, I have a couple women I are close friends with, but I tend to just get along better with men.
It's because of this. Remember, Lilith, what is Lilith?
But I mean, some of the guys on this panel are a little bitchy, though. Just a tad.
It's you two.
No, but a little bit.
Who is Lilith?
Much. I told you that private there, Nadia.
but think about this, Nadia. What is Lilith?
Gooch is manstrating.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
what does Lilith do in the myth? She's not the enemy of Adam. She actually leaves Adam, like Norma Jean left Jim. She leaves Adam, but who is it that she is the enemy of? It's Eve. She's killing Eve's kids. She's killing babies. She's trying to fuck up Eve. Jim gave this incredible story, which reveals this, right? That after she divorced him, he's heartbroken, but he's like, all right, well, I guess I have to move on with my life, right? So he starts dating, right? Men with HBO. Yeah. He starts dating again. And look, he's a good-looking guy. So he's dating really beautiful women. Like his girlfriend before he married Norma Jean was a beauty pageant winner, right? I mean, he had beautiful girls after him. And so he starts dating this beautiful redhead. And one day he comes by the house. It's just like a couple of months after the divorce. He comes by what was their house once. Now it's her house. Comes by her house. And he needs to pick up something. Like that happens in divorces. There's still something left in the house you got to go pick up. So he has to pick up something. And the moment Norma Jean sees him with this hot redhead, she freaks out and starts screaming at him to get that hussy out of our car. And he's like, why do you care? You divorced me.
That's typical, though. Come on.
Is that typical? It's typical.
Yeah.
Women, is that kind of typical? Like you leave a guy and then you get pissed off he's dating somebody else?
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
I hear Lady B is quite silent.
I don't know. I just go like scorched earth. Like I don't want to see you. Like that's fine. Like I want to be free. I don't know. When I got divorced, I was like, okay, I just want to be free. I don't care what you do. And even though I like kind of figured out my ex was probably cheating on me when we were married, I didn't care. Like just let me be free.
All right.
Oh no, you take his balls. You go out with the sun. You just
again
scorch earth and
these
scorch
are
him. Like you just said.
And the core problem of Jim is he didn't do anything to deserve this. He didn't cheat on this woman. He didn't do anything. He didn't hit her. He didn't abuse her. He didn't cheat on her. And she left.
Yeah.
Right?
So
and now he's with somebody else. She's like, get that hussy out of our car.
On that front, like how are you going to like frame this movie so Marilyn doesn't come out looking like the asshole?
Well, and I worked that very carefully. The people who read the script, women in particular, really cried. They said they cried in their seat because I go out of my way to, number one, to show her abuse, what she endured, to show the people messing with her head to get Jim out. So yeah, I mean, it was her choice. She freely did it, but there were a lot of Svengali saying, get rid of this guy, right? And she's a 20-year-old girl. She's going to be influenced by these women that she respected and people she respected were like, get rid of this guy. He's a loser, right? He's a nobody. Right, she's going to be influenced by that, and also because I have a scene where years later she and Jim meet. It's not historical; they did not meet again. Right? She cut him off, but there is a scene I create that's a fictional scene where they have a private meeting just before she died, and she reveals what she's learned in her journey about their relationship, and that allows you to see her as a human being, rather than being angry at her for what she did to him. Because I am of the opinion that she wronged him. I don't think he did anything to deserve it. And I think that if she had stayed with him, she would have still become a successful actress, but without all of these scumbags around her. So that is my opinion. I think she made the wrong choice. Others say, well, no, whatever. She made the choice that was right for her. Well, she died at 36. I mean, I don't know if that was the right choice. She died alone with no good people in her life. I don't know, but I'm of the opinion this guy, she would have become a movie star. She wouldn't have become Marilyn Monroe. You know, he wouldn't have let the sleazy guys that wanted her to make her a sex object come to her. But she would have become like Betty Davis. Like he was telling her, if you want to do this, you got to take acting classes. You got to be serious about this. Like she was a terrible actress, and you know she wasn't good at it because she was emotionally screwed up from her childhood. She couldn't access her emotions. So she didn't take acting classes. She instead had these Bengali acting teachers that she was living with who were screwing with her head. That's why all she could do was create this persona because she didn't know how to act. It took her a long time to learn how to act. And Jim was like, if you're going to do this, you got to take acting classes. You got to be serious about this.
I'm going to ask you about this. I'm curious about this. And this is controversial question, but was he spoken to at all about a thing that happened in Dallas to JFK?
Like what?
That was he involved in? Like,
was he ever considered? Because he was a sniper.
He was a sniper. Well, to his death, he maintained that he did not believe that the Kennedys killed her. He believed she died accidentally because I've seen him say interviews where he said, no, she died accidentally, even though his friend who found her body, Jack Clemens, said the body had been staged. This was a murder. He said it, but he couldn't believe Jack. He's like, because it was too much for him to process. Because if she was murdered, he would have gone crazy. He would have killed the Kennedys. If he believed, he would have gone crazy. He would have lost his head.
I wonder if they ever released the Kennedy files, like they keep going back and forth on, if there would be information about her in there.
Even if they did, would you believe them?
No. It's
No.
the government.
No.
No.
Well, there are files they have not released about her. There are files that the Kennedy family has asked them not to release. That the archives, under the archive laws, should be released. They have not released them, and they're mostly about her.
Of course.
I'm shocked that no one considered that.
Well, I'm sure he had an alibi. He had a wife and kids. He wasn't in Dallas that day. I mean, so I'm sure he didn't do it, right? But I think he would have. I think, like, had she called him on August 4th that Bobby Kennedy is threatening my life, he would have gone there with his gun and would have shot Kennedy right there in the house. And I think she didn't do that because deep down inside she still loved this guy and she knew he's going to get killed.
Yeah.
Zax, I'm sure there's a YouTuber out there with a 6-parter of why this guy is the
shooter,
the assassination. Yes, I'm sure there is.
If
Now,
not,
can I
I have
ask
an
a question
idea.
about this guy? At what point in time did Arthur Fonzarelli move in? And
Hey.
Oh,
I mean, he was
You can say
he
whatever
showed
you want
him.
when anyone else.
The
When
guy.
it comes to the
He could have
Fonz.
been the guy that's
When
snapping
it comes
up
to the
girls.
Fonz.
come
No, I
on,
mean,
he looks like
was
Ron
the guy that
Howard.
could get the girls really easily, right? I mean, look, he was a movie star, good looks guy, and he was a decent guy. He's a catch. He's a catch,
Yeah.
right?
He
And,
actually kind of looks like Robert Kennedy.
well, yeah, I mean, he was a handsome guy. I mean, Joe DiMaggio
Yeah.
was a nice guy, but Joe wasn't a good-looking guy, and Miller was just a troll, right? Her third husband, Arthur Miller, was just like an ugly
Arthur Miller.
troll.
A mistake.
He's a piece of shit, right? I mean, I think he was the worst husband because DiMaggio just slapped her around. She knew how to handle physical abuse. Arthur Miller got in her head and fucked with her head.
So
I
I got a
watched that
question.
documentary about their like coupling on HBO, and it's brutal.
Yeah, it was horrible. He fucked with her. So I hate Miller. I think he's a piece of shit.
Are we going to be playing Jumanji tonight? Because I was told we might be playing Jumanji.
Jumanji. I don't know how to play Jumanji. Oh, you mean like the movie Jumanji?
The movie. The
I
movie.
was like the Jumanji game from the movie. Okay, I don't know.
The game. Yes.
There
All
you
right.
go.
So so no, I mean, this is a tragic thing, and so this is a famous picture that we've got here, where this is when he's away at war, and she's suddenly become discovered overnight as a model, and these are all the covers she got. Like remember, she's a 19-year-old girl who suddenly went from a factory worker to the #1 model in America in a period of a few weeks. Like she was so telegenic that she was on the cover of everything. And he's like he was in a boat overseas, and this is how he found out about it. He's like, all the guys are like, oh man, check her out. They're looking at some like magazine and they're like, well, I want to bang her. And it's his wife. It's his wife on the cover. It's like, wait, what is this?
You know, I wish that I had that idea first to be like, hey, why don't you try these magazines on? I'll take some pictures of you. Like that's real thinking, really, to get her in that pose.
I actually have the scene in the script where she does that because I thought this was such a great moment where she actually
she's young.
She's out there and standing outside and all the dudes are checking her out. Like she's standing naked but wearing them for magazines. I mean, she liked the guy's attention. She always did.
With Sydney Sweeney, you're going to need a couple more magazines for that top
Well,
part, at least.
Well, but Marilyn was well endowed up there. Marilyn was well endowed.
Let me say hello to some people who've come in here. Squeaky Mouse is here. What's up, Squeaky? Always good to see you. I'm going to play your song for you before we're done here. Late Night with JT. Good to see you, JT Gunn. I was on your show a few months back. It was fun. Good show. Stephen Ransom's here. Been a while. Good to see you, Stephen. Yeah. Philosophy critiquing film starting. Now here we are. Chart on screen. Yeah, there you go. Who else is coming? Common People's here. And I think that's it for new people.
I remember when I was 19. Yeah, it was good.
This is for you, Squeaka. This is Don, also Don Flats's favorite song.
Enough. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me. Gandalf, not the wandering wizard, per se.
I'm Gandalf.
I love that. It's so great.
I love it too. Because
I'm going to be saying that all night now.
if chat or panel people have any questions for Cameron about Marilyn Monroe, or anything else, let's let them roll in too, because he is an expert.
Why don't we roll to the third chart, which is a chart of their relationship.
Okay,
that's the other one. Is
oh man, I'll have to do this for me.
This one?
No, that's his chart. That's his chart. Let's go to her. Let's go to the relationship chart, the composite chart. This one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So this is. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I was telling the chat, but this looks like those old school PC game code wheels when you wanted to go play your Commodore 64 game. It would come with these things you twist it around and you have to solve the puzzle. That's all I can think of when I see these. It's ridiculous, but true.
I love my
Coconuts.
Commodore 64. Still the best
Coconuts.
computer. So, all right. So this chart, so what a composite chart is, you just took her chart and his chart and literally took the midpoints of every placement. Like if they were to come together, where would they meet? And then you create a separate chart of that. And I found it to be incredibly, remarkably accurate about people's relationships. I did it with my own relationships. I was like, yeah, that's how my relationship worked, right? That's what went wrong, all that stuff. So in this chart, so this is a chart of their relationship. So let's start again. Look at the AC. So the AC, which is the ascendant, the rising sign, the destiny sign of the relationship. So that's in Libra. So they came across, when they were together as a couple, they came across as a very lovely, like Libras, very lovely, very charming, dignified married couple. Libra is the sign of relationships. So they came across, like people saw them as a couple. Like wow, he was essentially the football hero of the town, and she was the prom queen. This is the kind of people you would imagine. Two very good looking, nice people in a relationship. That's what you imagine. And that was their look. They had a very attractive look, right? But now see the little symbol that's underneath it? That's like that sort of cross with a squiggly line, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the planet Saturn. So that sits on their ascendant. So Saturn defines. So Saturn is the planet of restriction, of age, of responsibility, of limitations, and of ambition and growth. So overlaying this very charming persona that they had as a couple was they came across as a very serious couple, right? They came across, people saw them. They looked older than they were. Like, he was 21, she was 16. They just looked like old married couple, like they had been together for years. And they came across as a very serious, very refined, elegant couple that people said they looked like royalty. Like if you look at some of their photos, they kind of look like they're the king and queen of their little town, right? They have this elegance to them because they were a very elegant couple that came across like very dignified, right? But the most important thing about when your Saturn is in your first house in a composite chart, one astrologer explained that to me, saying that is like super glue. So Saturn is the power of gravity. It's the thing that pulls you and down and forces you to live in the real world. Like we all live in our airy-fairy dreams of all the things we want, and then we have to live in the real world where there are limitations and there are obstacles in life, and there's only so much time that we have in life to achieve things. That's Saturn. That's reality. So they had this relationship that was like super glue, and so yeah, they were bound together, like they were glued together. And that's very important to know because it's a sign of destiny. So they're destined to come together. And even though the marriage broke, the bond didn't break. That's why, like, he knew she was going to die. 16 years later, he knew she was going to die. He sensed it. That's why I think she didn't destroy his photos, right? Because she couldn't break the bond. Marilyn wanted to be free of this guy. He was an embarrassment to her. She was hanging out with movie stars. She was dating Joe DiMaggio, like a huge celebrity. To be with like a LAPD police officer was a step down for her. So she tried to erase him in her interview. She never talked about him, or she would say things like, oh, I was young. It was a marriage of convenience. He kept me from going to the orphanage. I didn't really love him. None of that is true, but that's the official narrative that you would read in the newspapers to dismiss him, right? But it wasn't true, but she couldn't get rid of him. She couldn't get this guy out of her system, right? And one of the reasons we know that is that a few years ago, literally like only 3 or 4 years ago, they found a collection of some letters she wrote that were unpublished. They were discovered recently. Like they're still finding things about her, right? So, and they were published. And one of them is actually a typewritten report that when she was with all those quack psychiatrists who were fucking with her head, right? They had her like psychoanalyze her first marriage. And so she did like a detailed psychoanalysis of their marriage. This is like when she's like 35, right? Years later, right? And it's incredibly distorted. Like her memories are wrong. Like by now she's heavily on drugs. Like things she say that we know never happened, she's rambling on about, right? Because her psychiatrist said by the end of her life, she couldn't tell fantasy from reality. Like her memories were all screwed up. Like she couldn't remember things that whether they were true or not. And so she was saying all these things that we know didn't happen, right? But what was amazing is at the age of 35, after 2 other marriages and incredible career where she's the most famous woman on the planet, she's still doing this rambling psychoanalysis session about her first husband. She haven't gotten over him, and she's talking about how these other women that she was suspicious he was sleeping with. He never was, but she was, even at 35, like all these years later, 15 years after she divorced him, right? She's like, I was terrified that he was sleeping because with these women, right? I mean, she couldn't get that out of her head.
This comment, I don't know what it means, but it's funny to me.
Yes, it is a difficult place. I understand what it means.
Oh, Morgan, I'm a cusp too. All
Yeah.
right. That's cool.
So,
Yeah, I
Not the
don't.
same
I'm
cusp.
lost.
Not the same though.
when you're making this movie,
Nazi.
Hollywood is famous for making movies about themselves, showing themselves in a good light.
Yes.
Every other year we give a Best Picture award to something goofy, talking about how great Hollywood is. If you're going to make this movie, you're really going to have to show that Hollywood, at least back then, was a serious bunch of degenerate pieces of shit. Are you concerned that that's going to sort of really impact your ability to get this made and get it out there?
I mean, it's a real concern because I do it. The script is very blunt. It shows the sexual abuse that Hollywood did to her. It shows the casting couch that she willingly participated in. It's very blunt, right? Because you want to see how she goes from this sweet, innocent housewife to like blowing dudes at a party in Hollywood. I mean, it's literally what happened, like a rapid descent into this horrible world, right?
That's what happened to Dawn.
So I have those scenes in there, and they're very disturbing. They're meant to be disturbing, right? They're meant to show what Hollywood did to her and what she willingly participated in. She chose this world. She left Jim to do this, right? And this was the price she was willing to pay to do it, right? And yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, look, we'll see. There's a reason Hollywood has never. There's a reason none of you have ever heard about this, right? None of you have ever heard the story. Hollywood suppressed the story. Right? There's this movie Blonde that came out a couple of years ago on Netflix. It was right. If you watch that movie, you see
awful.
It was a terrible movie. It was a terrible movie. It was a bad movie. Anna de Armas was very good in a bad movie. But that movie, if you remember, it shows her childhood abuse and like all the stuff she's going through with her sick mother, and then it jumps to her in Hollywood being abused and taken advantage of. It literally jumps over the 4 years with Jim. He's not in the movie. If you watch that movie, you would not know she was married to this guy. All you know is she's a child that's being abused, and then she's an adult that's being abused by Hollywood. And the idea that she had left a stable, safe environment to go into this willingly, they didn't show that in the movie, even though the whole movie is about how Hollywood had taken advantage of her because they wanted her to be a victim. And the story of her willingly leaving a good life for this takes away the victimhood. So you're right. Hollywood doesn't want this story told. It's never wanted this story told. It didn't want it when they were alive. They suppressed Jim, right? They suppressed him, and the Hollywood PR system suppressed him. Like they weren't allowed to ask her about him, right? I was recently at the Marilyn Monroe Memorial, like for like her death. Every August 5th they have a memorial, and this year because of this movie, I was asked to speak at the memorial, which is a big honor, right? Because like thousands of people are watching, and they're at the memorial or they're watching it online. And I spoke about the ideas of my movie, and one person came up to me afterwards because there were people that knew her, like old people that were there who had known her, right? They're still there. One person came up to me and he told me a story about Marilyn that he heard from his father, who had been like a journalist who had interviewed her. And he said, this always stuck with me. He said, the father had come in. This was like late in her life, like 1960, like 61, after she divorced Miller, a year before she died, right? So his father had interviewed her. And when she came in, she had only one ground rule. She said, I'm happy to talk about my failed marriages with Joe DiMaggio and Arthur Miller. I will talk about them. But I will not accept any questions about my marriage with Jim Dougherty. I won't answer them. I mean, she wouldn't talk about it. She partly because of her own pain about it, because it makes her look bad, right? You didn't do anything. DiMaggio hit her. Miller screwed with her mind. He didn't do anything. She's like, well, he just wasn't good enough for me and I wanted to be famous. That doesn't look good. And also because she's been trained by Hollywood to never talk about him because he's an embarrassment to them. It's a problem. So yes, you're right. This is going to be a problem. I don't know what's going to happen. I fully expect this movie is going to get made. I have no idea how. I don't. But that's my expectation.
Gotcha. And then can you talk a little bit, you're talking about sort of one of this era of Hollywood that we've kind of accepted as sort of just terrible and gross.
Yeah.
How has that sort of behind the scenes thing shifted in the sort of the 70 years since that's happened? I mean, has this gone in waves?
No, nothing's changed.
Post-Weinstein
Yeah,
world
nothing's changed.
better? Or-
The Lady B knows that nothing's changed. Everything's still going on. Casting couch is still going on. You know, people are being abused. Children are being abused, sadly. You mess with the wrong person, you have a car accident. That's still going on today. Nothing's changed. It's still the world of LA Confidential. Nothing's changed at all, in the slightest bit.
You think it could change?
No, it can't.
It
Because
won't.
Hollywood is hell itself. Hollywood is the hell dimension.
I
This is
feel
what
like
it
there,
is.
yeah, it's hell dimension. There's some evil fucking energy there, and it's like this. I feel like everyone that's involved there is like just working spellcraft on some level. Maybe sounds crazy, but
No, there's occult stuff here. There's an occult energy on this
Oh, yeah.
town. It's not going to change. This town is built on using image to control millions of people's minds. That's an occult energy.
I'm
And it's
glad
highly
I got
sexual.
out.
me too.
Yeah.
So
So
glad I don't work there. Like, it's so
I'm
crazy.
still talking. I'm trying to expose it, right? Maybe stupidly, but no, it
Yeah.
can't change. It's the nature of the beast. It can't ever change.
Nadia, what would it take for you to go back?
Oh man. I'm surprisingly I might go back, but
Oh,
there's-
okay. I want to hear
I
this.
can't share anything on it right now.
You and your NDAs.
I know, no, I just can't. I gotta wait to see if
All
it.
right.
Anyway,
Yeah, don't release it before it comes.
I would
Let-
only
yeah.
go back, and the reason why I would go back now is if it's for somebody that I care about or somebody I respect, and I know that I'm going into a work environment that I can be myself. But or $1 million. $1 million.
Just $1 million.
That's fair.
Come on.
No, I probably would go back if I could do it full time and leave my awful corporate day job. So yeah.
There you go.
Fair.
But for me, daytime is not on set. I like to be in the shops doing the sculpting and creating the prosthetics and setting up the stuff and then shipping it off to the people on set to utilize. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I fucking hate actors. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Actors are like, I don't know. The actors are something else.
Yeah. So
Empty vessels, I've heard. Happy birthday, common people.
Happy birthday!
happy birthday. Sammy will sing like Marilyn Monroe. Happy
Sammy,
birthday,
can
Mr.
you
President.
sing?
Go ahead, Sammy.
Sammy is a singer.
Yep.
Oh,
You got feedback.
Plug your
You're
mic in.
you're a robot.
Go fuck yourself.
Oh, you're a rapper. You could be a rapper. T-Pain.
Yeah.
Your mic is blowing back on you, Sammy.
Yeah, big time.
Is it?
Yeah, unplug it, plug it back in.
You're at USC now?
Oh,
you,
not
Steven.
USC.
Congratulations, dude.
That's
You
awesome.
better now?
No.
No.
It's terrible. Hold on, guys. I need to step away for 5
Yes.
minutes. Let me step away for 5 minutes. Shut my. You guys keep talking. Kvetch, talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back in.
Well, we got it. We got it. Sammy, if you can get your mic working, I want to hear that ghost story that the experience you had. When you can, if you can get it.
Is that better?
No.
No, something static.
You have like
Feedback, yeah.
earbuds on, like
It's got-
some kind of wireless.
Yeah, it wasn't giving me a problem before. Hold on.
That's weird.
Or maybe Gooch just didn't tell you. Because you made me sound like
Gooch,
Gooch
that's the best prank of all time.
How dare you accuse me of something like that?
So not. It could be
Oh, it's
interfering
awful.
with your wireless earbuds.
Mr. Roboto, Aria.
See if that works. Hold on.
Yeah.
We're
In the
all
mean-
waiting in
Yo,
anticipation.
in the meantime, I'll give you
Is that
you guys
better?
some no.
No.
If anything,
No.
it's worse.
Jeez. Yeah.
It's worse.
Yeah.
Here's,
Maybe I should drop out and come back in.
go for
Okay.
it.
Probably good idea.
Let's learn about equilibrium from Tito.
Big slow ox. That's one thing too that I've noticed. He's deaf, so he has a soft head, and you hit him with more and more shots. What? I like it. You hit him with soft shots because their equilibrium. They don't have no equilibrium. Matt Hamill has a soft head because he has no equilibrium. That's the weakness he has. To be honest, I don't know what to soft head.
Oh my god. That guy, he's been hit on the head too many times.
Yeah. Josh is here. Thanks for coming, Josh.
Yay.
Everyone loves
Joshy.
Josh.
One of my favorite things about Tito is how his head shape has changed throughout his career. Like
Uh-huh.
in late career Tito has the ped jaw, like where his jaw has grown so significantly from the drugs that he looks like a different person almost.
It's almost keeping up with his head. Like
Yeah.
it's a challenge. I don't think he's gonna get there, but yeah, it's definitely. And he used to speak normally, so I guess concussions are a real thing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
That's why you can't pronounce anything, even in English. Too.
Shush! I said shush.
Can you say Vietnamese?
You at least. Look great. You at least
Yes,
look
I can.
You're at least.
Goochhanese.
Are we back? Sammy,
Wait on you,
speak.
Sammy.
I think we're good, maybe.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Volume up a little bit if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speak into the mic.
Is that better?
No.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah,
Wait,
I sound like a
no,
person
I
now.
can't hear him.
Speak
I can't.
slowly.
I can't
Go
hear
on.
you.
Smooth jazz.
Oh,
There you go.
dude.
Now let's get
That's
to
it.
happy birthday.
You've got good
That's it.
radio voice. You have a
Oh,
good
yeah.
radio voice.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's what I went to school for.
Oh, okay. Well then.
And here we are,
Yep.
gathering garbage. Oh, nice.
Tell us
nice
your
work.
ghost story, Sammy.
I want to hear it. Let's go, Sammy.
Yeah.
So we ended up living at my grandparents' house for over a year because my mother would not step foot back in the house that we were currently living in because it was haunted. And it's really funny to hear this story because my dad doesn't believe in like paranormal or anything, but will be like, "Dad, why'd you move?" He's like, "Oh, because the house was haunted." And
Okay.
That's
so
a
it's like
Midwestern
there's
dad.
so I guess my parents got married, and they got this house and they got a good deal on it. There was a little old man who lived there, and he died in the house, and everything was fine. And then they had me, and when they started changing the house around to put it in a nursery, weird things started happening, where like my mom would be in the laundry room and she would hear breathing. And there was one day she called a bunch of people, or like she called people over because she said like there was a bunch of black mold in the basement, and then when people went to check it out, it wasn't there. And then when I was born, things started to get like really weird. So things would get moved around in my room, and then my mom would, she would, whenever she was holding me, she said she would hear more and more breathing. My dad started to like do things. So he would leave money out on the counter for my mom for the day, and then my mom would get up and the money would be like torn in half on the counter. And then one day, point blank, when they started to get suspicious, they turned every light off.
How old were you?
I was probably like 3 or 4 at this point. By the time we actually moved out, it was.
That's how I talked to my husband.
So it ended up getting more gradual, and my mom was now pregnant with my sister. So things started after she got pregnant. Things started to like amp up more. So there was a point in time, my dad said like, "Hey, if there's something," they turned every light off in the house, and Dad said like, "Hey, if there's someone in the house, like when we come home, the attic light will be on." Sure as shit, the attic lights on, and then it culminated at a point where my dad came home and my mom wouldn't set foot in the house again. Like she was sitting on the porch holding me, and when he went into the house, every like cabinet and cupboard was just opening and closing, and so we lived with my grandparents for like a year and a half, and every single time we drive by that house, it's always up for sale. It's yeah.
Dude, you should write a TV show or a book about it.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple run-ins that we've had with other like paranormal things, but yeah, from an early age, I always believed in ghosts.
So wait, is your family haunted or is the house haunted? Because now
We
you're
think the
saying there's
house is well.
additional-
Me and my sister is convinced that not the house that we moved into after, but the house after that was haunted. Because and there were, and every person has like a different experience in this one room, where you would just like get like experiences of like dread, and like there'd be times where I would like come home from football practice and my sister would just like bolt out of the house just because like she couldn't take it anymore. And then when we moved to like our current house before like I ended up moving out, like everything was fine. Like, you know, it was like you got no more of these energies or, you know, whatever it was. I mean, obviously the one was kind of like a spiritual haunt, and the other one was kind of like I would guess like a like an emotional photograph, where, you know, you just kind of had like any single time you were in this room, you were just uncomfortable, and there wasn't anything about it. It wasn't like in the basement or anything. It was just, you know, it was we didn't decorate it. No one went in there. It's just you just didn't go in that room.
Was either house built on top of an Indian burial ground?
No, well, not to my knowledge. Maybe.
Yeah,
you know,
just wondering. Just
yeah,
wondering.
you know.
I've seen that movie.
You gotta check those things when you move into a place.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I always asked if somebody's been murdered when we were looking at rentals. Has somebody been murdered here? Is it haunted?
Absolutely.
I always ask it.
You know what's really funny? If you have a house and like
That's crazy.
you died in your house within a year and you're trying to sell your house, that has to be like you have to by law like disclose that to real estate agents.
Oh yeah.
Do you know how
I
you
mean, it's a
transfer
big
to that
thing in New
house?
Orleans. They'll actually put up signs in real estate whether the house is haunted or not.
I can see that.
No, thank you. I would never be able to sleep. Never. Mm-mm.
Have you been back there?
Like I said, I've driven by it plenty of times just from working for my local county.
But
And
not
when I see
stalking
it-
or whatever like that. You're not stalking the people there?
No,
You're
and honestly, I've never like knocked on the door and been like, "Hey, I used to live here." You know, it was like I was relatively young when we moved away, but I remember.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, and that's another thing
Sammy.
that freaked my parents out too, because I would ask about the old man.
Yep, it's Sammy. It's not the house because your wife just said your old condo was haunted too. It's
Oh
you.
yeah, that's
Something's
right.
attached
Our
to
first
you,
condo
bro.
was haunted.
Something's attached.
I just think
to
I'm
you.
sensitive to it.
Yes. You've got an
Yeah.
attachment,
If
dude.
there was a dead lady in the closet, that's not a story we have to hear now. If
No.
there's a dead lady-
So
Yeah.
I used to have dreams of this woman. I would have a reoccurring dream of a woman hanging herself in the closet, and there was one time we were talking about it, and there was a wine bottle at the back of our fridge, and it slid across the fridge and shattered on the floor, and like we were laying in bed and we saw it move.
Ugh.
And
Cool.
yeah, and that we had like that same thing. Like you would experience the dread, you would experience like these feelings that you had no idea. Like we were engaged to be married at the time. It was like some of the happiest we've ever been, and then all of a sudden, like you'd get like these bouts of depression and stuff, and you would just get caught in it, and you couldn't explain it, and you know, and that's very much not me. But yeah. So
it's you,
yeah,
man.
I guess I am haunted. Well, this house is fine. So
Is it?
for now.
Morgan,
I
is it?
cannot
Tell us.
even imagine how pissed I would be if somebody came up to my door and said, "Hey, I used to live here. Is the place still haunted?"
But wear those glasses. Wear those glasses and keep the hair where you are, and have a knife in your hand and knock on the door.
Yes.
Yes. Shot. This is Detroit, man.
Welcome back, Cameron.
I'll step away for 1 second. I have to make a cup of tea because I'm caffeine deprived and I'm beginning to freak out. So yeah.
I hear you. I gotcha.
You're caffeine deprived.
Yeah, I need caffeine. I'm a caffeinated person.
So I will tell you guys, if you are ever worried and you're hearing like noises and bumps in your house, I'll tell you this as somebody who kind of works in construction. A lot of it is because you have a ventilation imbalance. So you have.
Don't ruin the magic.
No,
boring. Boring.
That guy.
Boring. All right.
I'm not saying ruin the magic. I'm saying like if you're having problems sleeping because you're hearing this stuff, might be something to look into before moving out of your house.
Oh my
By
God!
the way,
Well,
you say this, and then are you gonna feel guilty if something haunts one of us and like attacks us? Oh yeah, we'll just fall asleep. It's just the vent, like
I'm gonna feel terrible if somebody gets murdered and they're like, "Oh no, I'm definitely staying in the house. It's just a bad AC unit."
So you're the character in the horror movie that doesn't believe it until it's too late.
Oh, definitely. I'm definitely the one saying that, guys, it's not a big deal. And
I'm
then,
like, we need to
and then you
clean
find my
this
body.
energy out of this space. Like,
So you say, is that for real? You sage your house?
Yeah, she does.
Cool.
Good woman.
Yep.
Good woman. Yep.
I didn't understand until recently, and I think Gooch probably could have taught me this, is that like the medicine idea isn't necessarily the actually going to pick like sage or whatever the herbs are, but it's like it's internal, and it's like almost like the idea of similar to karma or luck, or if you have good medicine is inside you, not just you don't just burn it.
Yeah, it's the act.
yeah.
Somehow I thought this was leading to Coyote Ugly.
Why would that happen?
Beware, I'm packing up my game and I'ma head out west where real women come equipped with scripts and fake breasts. Find a nest in the hills, chill like Flint, buy an old drop top, find a spot to pimp.
Yeah.
What a weird thing to
You know why
suggest.
that's good? You know why Coyote Ugly is good? Because like, let's say you're feeling like really down or something, or there's just not good vibes. You put on something like that. It's silly. It makes you laugh. Bam, the energy's better.
So you want me to spoil it for you now? That's basically what all these Hollywood parties look like. But those are just stars trying to get attention. Now suddenly you look at
a lot more drugs, though. A lot more.
Yeah, a lot more drugs, a lot more weird shit. Like,
and then other stuff is going on in the other rooms you don't want to know about. Yes.
Yep.
I've been looking at this the wrong way. I need to go to Hollywood.
No, I actually once met and talked with an adult performer who told me that she made more money doing eyes wide shut parties for celebrities than she made working in the adult industry. Like they would hire porn stars because they knew the porn stars will do anything, right? So they hire them to take part in like occult ritual sex parties. And she's like, yeah. And she named a few of them. I'm like, I probably can't repeat those names without, facing a Marilyn Monroe situation. So I was like, thanks for letting me know. Yeah.
Nadia, didn't you have a story that you were willing to share?
No.
Speaking of eyes wide shut.
No.
I mean, I don't remember. I thought I had shared in the past my apartment in college was haunted. I had growling coming out of my closet. I grew up in a haunted house. We always had my grandmother would hear people walk through the front door, through the kitchen, up the steps, and we had wooden floors, and there'd be nobody there.
You're giving it all away for free. Give us just one.
She just said, I don't have any stories.
I have no stories.
I
Here's
guess
a dozen.
The biggest one is so my parents bought this house, which is the house with that incident that happened. And from the get-go, it just felt weird. And there was 3 bedrooms on the top, and one of them was facing the backyard, which used to be, which is a forest preserve. So there were train tracks and then forest right behind the house. Mm-hmm. And my baby sister went in there and cried her eyes out every night, freaked out the whole time. So they switched me. They put me in there and put my other sister with my other one. And I remember I could not go to sleep without something over my eyes because it always felt like something was leering in weirdly. And this is also the same room that one day I was watching TV on a little tube TV, and daylight, window closed, door closed, and I had one of those, I don't know what they're called. They're the closets that fold open and shut. Like
doors?
Yeah. They kind of so I had a closet that it fold it open and shut, fold it open and shut, hold it open and shut, and the light kept flickering. And after that, I just slept on my parents' floor. Like I had a little mattress on the floor until they sold the house because they were getting a divorce at the time. So, so creepy stuff always. My sister used to run a huge paranormal group that used to do ghost hunting in Indiana too. The women in my family on my mom's side have always been sensitive to this kind of stuff.
Interesting.
I don't have any stories, she says, and then
no, but that's it.
Those are all my scores.
Sorry.
Do you have like any look because you're told part of your ancestry is from the Middle East? Do you have any jinn stories?
Ooh.
No jinn stories. Because when I lived over there, it was a weird feeling because you never felt alone, even if you were. Plus, the earth there is so old, right? I mean, this is Jesus walked. And we went to like sites and stuff, and there was always almost a calming feeling in certain areas. But no jinn stories, no. But my mom's side, she's American. She's French Irish. She's from Alabama, so my family has roots down there. So. Well, that's where, and the women on my mom's side is where everybody's like sensitive to this kind of stuff.
Jesus,
Jesus.
What's going on, Gooch?
I'm gonna make my tea.
What's your ghost story, Gooch? Go ahead, man.
Let's go, Gooch.
Well, I went through a period of time where no one would talk to me, and then one day I started talking to this little boy, and he started telling me that he sees dead people, and
Sixth sense, yes, I
know. Sorry. No, I've told this story on here where I in the house that I lived on lived in with my parents in Winnipeg here. I would go up the stairs sometimes as a kid, and someone would whisper in my ear, and it called my name, and I would kind of just like, hurry.
I don't know if you're trolling us or telling us an actual story.
No, this is actually true. No, this is actually true. Like every time I'd go up, not every time. Let me retract that. Sometimes when I go up the stairs, like it felt like someone was whispering in my ear and calling my name, like Jay. And so, and I told my mom this, like this is like I want to say like 5 months ago, and she decides to tell me now that they bought the house. Because we got that house because the guy that owned it, he died in the driveway, pinned because he was an a mechanic, the car collapsed on top of him and killed him in the driveway. And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's what happened in the driveway. We didn't think." And she's like, "Yeah, that's the story of that house." And I'm like, because I could feel things in the basement because that's where I slept and I hung out, and it felt sometimes I'd feel like I was being watched or I'd hear things, and it was pretty creepy. And so, yeah, that is actually a true story. So
that's crazy.
It's also the first time where I saw a coyote.
Is that the first place?
Moonlight.
A for effort, C+ for execution.
Yeah. No, but yeah, she tells me this now, like. It's just okay.
I just said that too. Actually, my mom visited, and she's talking about this kind of stuff, and she's like, "Well, our house was haunted. We lived in a small town called Surrey. It's spelled Surrey, but whatever. It's Canada, and I lived in this it was a very small town, and it was an old home. It didn't have running water, had like an outhouse, and I was like, it was kind of like what the hood would be if you're like white and in the country, maybe, and." So I grew up there, and I don't remember any of this stuff, but she was saying, no, that was haunted. I'm like, okay, well, I don't think it was haunted because I think I'd probably remember that. She's like, well, no, like she said that these things would happen whenever, it was always when I was around. So maybe I'm haunted too. That'd be awesome, actually, if I was haunted. Someone get me a sandwich or something right now. That would be great. But
I don't think it works that way.
No? Well, worth a shot. So she said that like it was always related to like doors, so that if I was in a room, whatever, it was always, and I do kind of remember this. I could never get out of my room, and she said, whatever room you were in, was always difficult to get the doors to open. They never wanted to open. There's other examples she said too. Things would fall off, and that was probably me fucking with my parents. But she said that no, we would see all these things that happen, and you would I would complain that I was hearing someone talking to me, and so they'd play music over it so that I could sleep at night. I don't remember that at all. But yeah, the doors thing I do remember, and it was whenever I was in a room, it was really hard, and if I wasn't, it would open fine. So I don't that's a story. I don't know how much of it was true or not, but
now that is a box office winner for a horror movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like that too, Zach. I will not sleep in total silence. I need something.
But
like playing something at night to
Yeah,
sleep?
my brother does
Yeah.
that. He always
Yep,
listens
I
to like
need,
weird noise. It's so weird.
it doesn't matter what it is.
Like,
It can't be totally quiet. And yeah, I guess I talk in my sleep a lot.
Have you ever seen the guy at the foot of your bed with the big brim hat?
No,
I
I have been woken up several times because I thought someone was pulling me out of bed.
Share the acid, Nadia. Share the acid.
I've never done acid. I'm serious. It's a thing that multiple people have seen this guy.
I do have a story. It's creepy, actually. Now I think of it. Whenever you're done, Nadia.
But to finish it off.
Sorry.
I've always had insomnia. I still do, and they actually, a woman did die. My mom thought said it was a woman that was talking to me, and so a woman did die in the house, and they tore it down when we moved out, so it's gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
When I was doing my practicum, when I was in paramedics and paramedicine, I was staying at a friend's place in Regina, and they had a little boy, and he was like 4 years old, and sometimes he would be screaming in the top of his lungs in the middle of the night, and he would be screaming at a corner, and the mom would like try to comfort him and anything, but he'd be like terrified, like night terrors, like he would like just couldn't move. And then finally, after like probably like 2-3 weeks of this, like she finally got I came home that night, and she was telling me what he told her, that he sees a woman all dressed in black with long fingernails in the corner of the room, and she tells him that she'll kill everybody if he leaves the room. And I was just like, that freaked me out. Like she actually took him to the psychiatrist, and they said like he's totally normal, like he's actually highly intelligent and everything, but like he kept having these night terrors, and I think he grew out of them by the age of like 6 or 7, but for years he would like sometimes scream in the middle of the night and just stand there. He literally would wet himself staring at the corner of the room.
Wow.
That's
scary.
also a similar storyline they use in Insidious.
This is actually true. I'm not trolling.
I believe, but I'm saying like if you've seen Insidious, there's eerie similarities to it too as well.
Because I remember she like I don't want to say her name, but she would be crying trying to figure out what the hell, and I remember good friends with her husband, and he was like just got on with the hydro, and he says, "That's it, we're moving out of this house." So.
Josh, thank you. My apartment in LA was haunted. A guy hung himself in the bedroom closet.
Oh my god, that's scary.
What's crazy is when they repainted, they didn't repaint the ceiling, and there was a footprint on the ceiling of the closet.
David Carradine?
Wow.
That's crazy.
He's been known to hang himself in closets.
Or Michael Hutchins too, didn't he?
Yes,
have some fun with the old chokey choke. Well, thank you, Josh. That's very generous of you. And I mean, I would love to have Josh on here sometime too. Josh,
Yeah, I want to hear Josh's stories.
Whenever you're free. I'm gonna play for Josh a very special clip.
where you can all stand around and jerk each other off while you tilt your head backs and go, woke, 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 woke. And then you can come on each other's faces and tell each other.
That's.
I know what I'm doing after this.
My boy, Josh. Josh, another one. But there were times when we come to the kitchen, all of the cabinets were open. Our stereo would randomly turn on. Our TV would change channels without us touching the remote.
That sounds like a horrible roommate.
I know. I don't know. No, that's scary.
So I was away and I heard part of the thing about the woman with the long hair and the fingernails. Can you repeat that? Because it sounded really scary.
Okay. When I was doing my practicum, just quickly, I was staying with a friend's place in Regina, and her son would like wake up with night terrors, and you couldn't move him. He would be fighting to just stay in the room, and he'd be crying and screaming, and like weeks and weeks of this, like in the middle of the night. And she finally got, he only finally spoke and said that there's a lady all in black, dressed in black with long fingernails and long black hair, and she was telling him she would kill everyone in the house if he moved. And like he legit would wet himself, like standing there. He was so in fear. And he was like 3 or 4, and then he finally grew out of. They moved. I think it was like.
Well, guess what? That sounds like a Lilith manifestation. That's the kind of point she would take. Lilith, when we were talking earlier about you may not have been here for this part, we're talking Lilith in the astrological chart. She's a character out of Jewish tradition that was the first wife of Adam, that essentially is the enemy of Eve and of children, right? And so she kills children, but she can also haunt them and scare them. And it's just describing these kind of terrifying things that you're describing. And I believe it is a real spirit, right? Lilith is a real spirit because it's mentioned. There's 2 ancient spirits that are mentioned pre-biblical in Sumerian texts by the same name. It's Michael, the angel Michael. It's in the Bible, it's in the Quran, and it's an ancient Sumerian text from thousands of years before that, right? Michael is mentioned by name, and Lilith too, is mentioned by name. So these Michael, the defender, and Lilith, this dangerous force, right, are both mentioned in the Sumerian text, the earliest text we have of the human race, right? So I think she's I know she's a real spirit. And so this might have been a manifestation of that this child saw, because she haunts children, she kills children. It's a very dangerous spirit.
Isn't it like some people think that she's like the mother of demons as well, because she could have gotten with the angel Samael and...
Yeah, that's part of the story, that she had demon children and then God would kill those children and then she'd have more. And so that's why she gets revenge on human children, because God kills her demon children. So she gets revenge on Eve's children.
I like the children of the Watchers, like Spirit of the Giants theory more.
Yeah, but it fits the archetype. And if I can I tell a ghost story?
Go for it.
Absolutely.
So this builds on what you just described. It's literally this. Maybe it's even the same entity. I don't know. But it's so this is a story that was told to me by a friend of mine, a good friend of mine who's Indonesian. And this was when he went from being a rationalist into a believer in things that are beyond the 5 senses. This is his own personal story, he told me, where he was, he grew up in Indonesia. And Indonesia is like a big Islamic country. And just like any Islamic country, there's beliefs of jinns and spirits, part of the culture. But he was always like, I'm smarter than that. I don't believe in this stupid legendary stuff that my dumb people believe in. And he came to America and he studied to be like an engineer or whatever. That kind of engineering would often have sort of an on-off scientific perspective on things. A lot of engineers don't want to believe in things that they can't physically handle. So he came out even more solidified in his materialist worldview. The story he's telling me, right? Very sweet guy. And he said that after he graduated, he went back home to Indonesia and he was invited to spend some time in like this remote village with an aunt and uncle they hadn't seen in a few years. They were like, welcome back from America. Why don't you come spend like the summer with us, whatever. So he comes out to the village, and it's by the jungle. Indonesia is an island country, so it's one of these islands with hefty jungles. And he comes there, and it's very beautiful. And the people and the aunt and uncle tell him, hey, look, this is a really safe island. There's like no tigers or whatever, the kind of thing you might expect in a jungle, right? It's very safe, but we only warn you about one thing. When it's sunset time, like between sunset and last light, so Maghrib, as it's called in Islam, that period of time, twilight, don't go out of the village. Especially don't go in the jungle nearby, because he's like, why? There's no real wild animals that are a threat. He's like, no, it's not wild animals. During the twilight time, the jinn that lives in the jungle comes out, right? It comes out, and you don't want to mess with it. he's like, here we go, dumb, stupid, superstition, blah, 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 blah. So whatever, but he's like respecting them and their traditions, and he's hanging out. But one day he's beautiful areas, so checking out the island. And one day he's out longer than he should have been, and like he sees the sun is set and it's twilight time, right? Like and he's like, yeah, I should probably get back to the village, but it's really lovely out here and whatever. And then he tells me this. So he's out there in twilight in the jungle, and then he says, I suddenly hear crying. I hear the sound of a woman crying. And I'm like, what's this? Like, what's happening, right? He's looking around. Where's it coming from? And it's getting louder and louder. And then he realizes it's coming from above him. So he looks up, and like in the trees, like maybe 10 feet above him in the branches of the tree, he sees a woman sitting up there. And he described her as I saw her perfect. There's still enough light in the sky. I could see her perfectly. She was sitting there. She had a like raggedy white dress, right? And she had very dark, like raggedy, like unkempt hair, kind of describing like what this woman that this child saw. And she was like hunched over on the branch. She's sitting on this branch, and she was crying with her hands covering her face, like shaking. And he's like, what's happening here? He's like, what's this woman doing up there? So he says, I call out to her. I said, I'm sorry. Can I help you? Are you okay? Do you need help? Can I help you come down? And he says, like, and I get chills even telling the story, the crying, suddenly the woman turns from crying to laughing. Like you can hear her laughing at him, right? Like, and so it's this, he's like, what's going on? And then in the twilight, he suddenly sees clearly her hands aren't human hands. Like she's laughing into her face is covered, and she's laughing into it now, right? But the hands he sees, they're essentially birds' talons. They're like massively long claws, but they're wrinkled. They're not human. They're like birds' talons. And he's like, this isn't a human. This is something else. And it's laughing at him. It's just above him. He could jump down on him at any second, right? So he said, I've never been more frightened in my life. It's like visceral fear, right? Because it's something beyond his understanding. And he runs all the way back to the village, like heart racing, terrified. And he gets there, and his aunt and uncle say, what happened? What's wrong? He's like, I saw this thing. He's like, well, we told you there's a djinn in the jungle. That's the djinn. We've been living here people have been living for hundreds of years. Know that comes out at this time, and you don't mess with it. Why didn't you believe us? And he said that was the moment his entire Western scientific paradigm was shattered. He said he became open to other realities at that moment.
That's wild.
It is wild.
It almost sounds like La Llorona.
Yeah, I mean, they're parallel creatures. I think maybe similar entities.
Maybe.
Josh, we were meant to meet Josh because you had a neighbor from Regina, and that's one over. Her name was Julie Wood. She does hair for film and TV. She's the one that got me the job on Glee. And then we got let go because a new showrunner came on.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Glee must have been a very interesting place to work. I heard a lot of stories about that place.
Josh has lots of Hollywood stories as well. Got to get you on together sometime, the two of you.
Yeah, it would be fun. Maybe next month, whatever. Yeah.
I got one from Peter from Fanside. After my late father-in-law died, the house felt empty, even with my former mother-in-law living there. Guess he really was the soul of the place.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, there's energy shifts. Anyone who's noticed it when someone you love passes away, the physical environment changes. It's not just your personal grief. There's an energy shift.
Yeah, I think so.
Makes sense. I haven't really had any. Oh, I've never gone ghost hunting, so I know you have, Cameron. And have you, Nadia? Because your sister.
I have.
You have?
Okay.
Do you have an experience you want to share, Sammy? Or Nadia? Whoever. Ghost hunting.
Sammy, do you know Bachelor's Grove? Since we're in the kind of same area.
I've heard of it. I haven't gone to it or anything like that.
Okay.
We used to go to this old insane asylum by Western Michigan. I mean, I've gone on tours in New Orleans. I went to the Stanley Hotel.
I've been there too. It's really haunted. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got like similar feelings in certain places that I
Gooch.
No, like in certain areas, like I get like a weird tingling in my neck, or like a chill, and vibes. Yeah, it's more like I don't know if you've ever been like driving and you don't have your AC on, but like maybe if you have air conditioning in the back of the car, like if there's like rear passenger AC and they have that blasting, like you get like a bunch of cold air. That's kind of like how I feel. That's kind of reminds me of my old house. It reminds me of, you know, those like if I'm feeling, I guess, sensitive to something, I guess I kind of like get the jitters, I guess. But I only experienced most of it like in the tunnels, and there was like a certain room in the Stanley Hotel. There was a not inside the asylum, but outside for sure. And like sometimes, like I said, I got the sensation of like having my shoulder get grabbed or my ankle, things like that. But
did you hear any children's voices at Stanley? Because I've heard them.
No. I know about actually my favorite story at the Stanley is, so when we went in, they talked about the little orphan who got lost in the snow. And you know, like if you roll the ball in the hallway, sometimes they'll roll it back. And then they also talked about the stagehand, who's like very tends to be like the most violent of the haunts there. And so we get in this particular room that I guess is in the center of both, and the tour guide like shuts the light off, and they're like, well, if you want to call out to any entities, you know, like now would be the time to do it. My first thought is, who the fuck is calling out to the guy who's gonna bite you and pinch you? Like, what about like the ball rolling kid? Like, let's talk to that one.
Well, there's always a moron that doesn't believe it, that tries that, and it ends badly for him.
Yeah, there was a couple people who got freaked out. I can't remember. I mean, my wife was with me. I don't particularly remember anything that was out of the ordinary. We took a bunch of different pictures and nothing there. But yeah, there was definitely, you know, like you get this kind of feeling that something's going on. There's also a bridge around here that's supposed to be very haunted, and then there's this random restaurant called Camp Ticonderoga, and they actually like have to like shut down on certain days because the activity's like way too high to actually run their business. So we stayed out there. But most of the stuff that I've encountered has been just me just wandering around in everyday life and not in these particularly I guess hot spots, if you will. Most of them have been I've just been in a weird apartment complex, and like I woke up because it felt like someone was yanking me out of bed, or you know, stuff like that. And there was one time in my old school, it was very old school. I know it was built in like the late 1800s, like, you know, like I said, Detroit area. And there was this kid, he died in the 80s. He was a football player, and his jersey used to hang in the entrance, and we saw, and they like retired the number. You couldn't pick the number, and we saw some kid running around in a red jersey with the number 80, and he ran into the boys' bathroom. And so we kind of chased after him to just see like who had the number, how'd you score the number. And when we got in there, the lights were off, and there's no way you could get out because like it is in Detroit. So all the windows are caged. And like me and like four kids just kind of like stood around going like,
you saw this direct on this kid run. It wasn't the corner of your eye.
No. This was at a fish fry, like at a, you know, like a community, you know, it was clear as day. All the lights were on. Yeah, I didn't use that bathroom for like the rest.
I mean, you're so haunted, dude.
I'm starting to think that I'm haunted.
It's probably in your zodiac chart. If I did dude zodiac charts, I'd probably find it, but I don't do dude zodiac charts.
It's all good.
But
yeah, you know, Morgan knows. Like I'll say things where I think she thinks I'm trying to freak her out, but you know, it's just like I feel like sensations and stuff, and so maybe I'm just insane.
We got to take you to the Pfister Hotel in Milwaukee. It's this beautiful hotel in Milwaukee that a lot of the visiting professional sports teams stay at. And when baseball teams come into town, they have this problem that a ton of Hispanic players refuse to stay at the Pfister because they swear it's haunted and there are ghosts. And there was even a story once where somebody saw a ghost, and they turned around, and apparently he was carrying because he shot at it. And they just said that they found like a bullet just in the hallway.
Whoa.
Just like it
What,
didn't
on the
go
ground?
into, yeah, like that
Wow.
he shot, and it didn't go into a wall. It didn't do anything. They just found it in the hallway because nobody.
Oh, I'd be
believed
totally
it.
down.
Yeah, it's a wild place if you get a chance. I know.
Well, Milwaukee's
Adrian-
just a fun town anyway. So
yeah,
That's Laverne and Shirley town, right? There when Laverne and Shirley was there, right? Milwaukee.
it
Yep.
is. If you ever
yeah,
get a chance,
I was just there, I think 2 years ago for a bachelor party, and we just took a boat and we just went bar hopping on a boat. Like, you know, you can literally go up and down. That's the way to describe it, Nadia. And I know you're a Stephen King fan. There's an excerpt from The Shining that I was thinking of, and it's right before he goes into room 217, and he's looking down at the doorknob, or Jack's looking down at the doorknob, and in basically what he's saying is like like they think Danny said he was attacked, or that there's a crazy woman in this room, and he's looking down at the doorknob, and he goes, if this doorknob turns, I will go mad. And like there's certain times where like I feel that way, or it was like where you can sense it's just on the cusp of things. Like I won't sleep in rooms where the door is like halfway closed, because it's got to be open or it's got to be closed, because like it has the potential to close or open more, and it just the fact that it could swing, it's things like that, that which I'm sure that bugs a lot of people, but it's like the potential to do that. And it was like, and it's maybe because I grew up in a house where that very much could have happened, where the doors would open and close and things like that. So it's just things I can't handle. Or like I said, I have to sleep with noise, because like I used to deal with breathing and bumps and creaks, and it wasn't the house settling, like the difference between like you said, the difference between footprints or footsteps and just like a random pop because the heater kicked on. It's something else that you feel. It's an instinct. And
That's your flight, or that's your fight or flight, right? You go, what happened to my friend when he's in the jungle? Your body goes into something's wrong, and I know exactly that sensation. It's a topic for maybe another day, but I've had one ever UFO sighting in my life. Right, it was in 2018. And it was life-changing experience that I saw this thing, right, with my own eyes. It was in the Atacama Desert of Chile, and I will tell you, the moment I saw it, my body reacted before my mind did. My body reacted before my mind processed what I was experiencing, and it went into immediate fight or flight mode. I started, as I looked at it, before my brain could even process it, my heart started pounding, and I went into a sweat, and I went into like, get out of here right now. This is not right. Right. And then my brain's like, my God, what's this thing in the sky above me? And then there was a person next to me who was an actual airplane pilot who's like, what the hell is that? That's not an airplane. That's not a drone. That I've never seen that. And then we're like, oh my God, we're actually having this experience. Right. But my body reacted before anything else to that there was danger or something beyond my experience as a human being.
Oh, I saw a UFO and it was like the same thing. It was like, what is it? There's some like innate sense in your freaking human nature, like from a million years ago, that just tells you to be afraid of that shit. It was so weird.
Welcome, Kayla.
Hi, Kayla.
Welcome. I fell asleep.
You fell asleep listening to my zodiac analysis of Marilyn Monroe. You're like, this is too boring.
Well, she's a Gemini like me too, and I believe she has Venus in Cancer as well.
No, she had Venus in Aries.
She had Venus in Aries? That's interesting.
Which is why one of the reasons her relationships didn't work out, because she would get really excited, like she would fall in love at first sight.
And then bored
within a few minutes. She'd be like, I think she's like, okay, I'm done now. It's like, no, that's not actually how a relationship works. It's not like, it actually has to last more than 3 days.
It's interesting what you just said about your body responded before your mind. I actually feel that our minds respond first, even though we may not process the thought that we
Well, my
have, and
conscious
therefore
thought
our
didn't
body
respond.
has.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the
the mind connected the
subconscious.
body. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
But my thinking
So,
stopped. I couldn't think at that
mhm.
moment.
Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So, because I feel our bodies respond so much to just things even on a subconscious level before we're even able to formulate the thought. So
No,
that makes
and it
sense.
has to
That's
be
pretty
that way
much.
because
Mhm.
look, think about it. Our ancestors, all they know is subconsciously they heard a growl that their conscious mind didn't hear. That's it for the body to react. You didn't hear it, but your body heard it on a subconscious level, and it knows there's a tiger, and you got to go.
Yeah, that's very true. I have
Or
a
you're dead.
question. Does Marilyn Monroe did she have any 12th house placements?
Yeah, to Pluto. We talked about it, Pluto, and that was
Okay.
very damaging for her. Pluto brought all these evil people into her life
I
because there was this
have a lot of
darkness.
12th house placements.
What do you got in your
So
12th house? What do you got, Kayla?
Mars and Venus and Chiron, all in Cancer. So
Okay.
you want to talk about attracting really fucked up people to you that you have to heal and
Holy shit, isn't
yeah.
that similar to what I have? She
So-
and
Ah,
I,
I'm gonna chart.
Sisters.
Cancer and Aries. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So, well, no, it's basically like with Cancer in the 12th house and your Venus and Mars placements, and then your Chiron. So it attracts a lot of broken people to you, damaged
Yeah, and also
people,
that
people
place will
that
attract
are
abusers.
secret. Yeah,
Yeah, it'll
secretive
attract physical
people
abusive people. Yeah.
and mentally abusive people, and just people that are pathological liars, and
No comment.
it's actually insane where you act as a healer for people constantly, even with friends. It's you can, how can I put it? It's just very damaged and broken people you attract to you, and they suck the life out of you. That's why I've had to really learn how to listen to what my body feels around people, or just go with how I feel, because when I go against how I feel, it just is very bad for me. Very bad.
See, the 12th house lesson, which Marilyn didn't learn, which I hope maybe you're learning, Kayla, in your journey, is that those people are a manifestation of your own subconscious, of the darkness inside of you. So in dealing with them, the task is, if I can master dealing with them, I can heal this thing inside of me, right? And so they're just a reflection of what's, it's like all these evil people that manifested in Marilyn's life when she left Jim. They were all a reflection of her childhood trauma and the darkness inside of her that she couldn't process. And so they were being presented for her as a chance. Had she walked away from these evil people, she could have healed her mind. So you're being presented like, walk away. Your job isn't to save these people. If you can walk away from these people, you can heal this. But if you engage it, it will only get worse.
Yes, and it will manifest into something bigger. And
Yeah,
you can
because
lose
you can't fight
yourself
this. You have to let
easily.
go.
Because
You have
the
to walk
12th
away.
house also too, it will put you in your own, like an own state of disillusion, where you can't process like what is the reality and what is not the reality.
Yeah.
So it's really, I've really had to learn how to trust what I feel and trust my instincts on things. Because when I go against it, usually the first thing that I thought of, like how something can go wrong or whatever the case, I'm always right. So it's like you got to go with that first gut feeling. So it's very interesting. And then Chiron, I have a lot of stuff, familial damage from my mother's family line, familial wounding that's been passed on from generation to generation to generation. It's actually very interesting stuff. I remember I made Jay download what was it, the pattern, which I really don't like the pattern.
You mean the app? Yeah, I know the app.
I've decided I hated that app because it never said anything positive to me. It was like a negative cycle after negative. It got to the point where it was like very bad, like nothing positive. But I made Jay download it, and some of it I think
Gooch.
freaked him out, and he deleted it. He's like, I'm not fucking dealing with this shit. Typical Aries.
I'm Aries too, I understand.
So
I
it was an
love
evil app you
Aries.
made
I'm
Gooch
a
download it.
Gemini. I get along great with Aries. Some of my best friends are Aries because I find you guys very straightforward people.
Well,
And
that's
you guys
why
like
Jim was
adventure.
Aries and Norma Jean was Gemini. They were good together.
Yep, and adventure. I love adventure. I love someone that can have a conversation. I don't like to be too bored. Although I do like my alone time a lot, and that's probably due to I have a lot of Cancer in my chart.
Yeah.
So
Squeaka's dropping by to drop 10 gifted memberships. Thank you. Thank you, Squeaka. You did not have to do that. Very much appreciated. We got some new members now because of you, including Brandon, the anime guy. There you go. The Eclectic Goat.
I like
sponsor.
that
Thank you.
name.
I do too. It's pretty cool.
Oh, she's awesome.
Forging Valorance. He was not here, but he's a writer and author. Smart kid. He's kind of being groomed by AJ, but we won't talk about that right now. Not that stream. So thank you very much. Squeaka, yeah, it's a long story. Well, we've already played your clip, so I have to play you something that's even cooler than that.
Chrissy, this is from you.
Speaking of hauntings, right? Why not?
Hauntings!
I mean, I feel like I'm not really scared of anything like that. I don't know if it's because I grew up in Salem and it just was always around me and I was always exposed to things like that and just people believe it's so haunted out here.
But Salem is very kitschy. I've been there. I mean, I love going to the historical parts of Salem, but there's so much like the psychic, store.
Half of them aren't even good psychics. They're not even real psychics.
Yeah.
They're not. There are a couple really good ones, but it's not the places that are well publicized.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's just, I don't know. None of that stuff. I think it's just because I feel that I'm very protected, that I have my angels around me, and I feel that my spirit is very pure. And I don't think that anything can harm me unless I allow them to harm me.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Oh, are you my guardian angel?
Your guardian Gooch.
I mean, the other day I was called to go walk in this forest area by where I get my nails done, which is like an hour away from where I live. And I'm walking through this forest. I was called to walk through this forest, and all of a sudden it is a cemetery in the middle of the forest. I'm like, okay, what the fuck? And it was interesting because a lot of the bigger gravestones were like all dilapidated and everything. And then like there were these smaller grave markers and they had them marked with flags. So I was like, what the hell did I stumble into? I actually posted video on Twitter, whatever the hell it is. I was like, what the hell? But I kept walking through it and I felt completely fine. And then a friend that lives in the area said, oh, no one goes in there because there have been like 3 people that committed suicide this year. And I looked it up and it's true. And I'm like, oh, and I felt all safe walking through here and everything. Interesting. I guess it was part of a hospital graveyard from back in the day. It's very interesting.
I'm looking for your video, Kayla. How long ago was that? Did you post that?
When did I go? I think it was Tuesday. There will be a video. It looks like a forest, and it's like the 3rd video. There'll be like 3 videos of a forest, and it's the 3rd video in. So I find blue jay feathers everywhere. At this point, I have found blue jay feathers since the end of September last year, and I even found one there too. So I'm always finding them. So I don't even know how many I have at this point. I'm working on like cleaning all of them but I think that's definitely a sign. Yeah, I find blue jay feathers everywhere. Today I found one walking. I've been finding them for almost a year. It's like insane. There'll be days that I find more than one, and it's not like it's very common to find blue jay feathers, I feel, but I think it's like a sign for me. As weird as that sounds.
Gooch, I didn't know that you were blue or had feathers.
There's a lot of things you don't know about me.
Is this the one?
I think that might be it. Hold on. You'll have to play it to see. It's like a longer video.
30 seconds.
I
Yeah.
can't get my nails done.
That's Trudeau. That's not your fault. He hates me.
Trudeau?
Yeah. Our prime minister.
Oh.
True dat.
He doesn't like me to use the internet.
Wander.
You're basically living in 1984 in Canada. That's what's happening.
Pretty much.
Wander to this beautiful forest. It was gorgeous. And it's just absolutely gorgeous here. So there's a third video in that video. Like that's the third one, I think that it is. But there's like all of a sudden this cemetery mark. I was like, holy shit, what did I go into? So I think it's the last video. It's on the same thread.
It feels like Sasquatch is going to come out in any moment.
I mean, I feel very safe. I've only had one incident where I didn't feel safe, and I got chased by some coyotes this year in the Lynn Woods of all places. And that was
what?
like, yeah,
Chased by
I got
what?
chased by coyotes in the Lynn Woods, and it was very scary for me. Like,
Gooch? Was that
Yes.
you?
No.
Coyotes? No.
now I have bear spray. But it was really scary because it
That
was
was
like
because of me.
it was 4 of them.
Yeah, no, the coyotes can be dangerous. I mean, these
were big ass coyotes. It was like a mother and a father, and I guess like I had to report it, and the police were like, "Oh yeah, you can't walk alone here. There has been a coyote problem due to all the construction we're doing in the area, and it's mating season for the deer and the coyotes itself. So it was probably, it was probably a male and a female with the 2 pups, because there were 2 small ones at first, and then the 2 larger ones came behind me, and they had to be following me for some time. And this big one would not back off. Like I was throwing sticks, rocks, screaming. I ran backwards.
Was it? Would you say it's an attractive coyote?
No, it wasn't that kind of coyote.
Well, I'm packing up my game and I'ma head out west with real women.
And that's enough. Yeah. I've already played that once tonight, so I'm going to play your video though. We're going to then after this, let's get this show wrapped. I want to see your. This is the one, right? This
Yeah,
must be
I think that's it.
Is there nudity in this at all? Any nude
No.
scenes?
No nudity.
We'll play it anyway.
Is that the same thread?
Yeah.
Okay. It has to be coming up. I just was like, oh shit, there's graves, pretty much. No, this is from yesterday. I'm always in the woods. So the same thread that you were on, where
Yeah,
that
you're very
other
tricksy.
video was, there's 3 videos on it. The first thread that you were on. Does that make sense? It's from the 20th. I'm not even 20. What fucking week is this? 27th. It's from the 27th.
Oh,
So there'll be like 3 videos, and I believe it's the last video on the 3 video thing.
I found a blue jay feather video.
Yeah, I always find them. I found that was like the craziest shit yesterday, and it was from like a piebald blueberry, Jesus Christ, blue jay. I am so tired. I have to work an event, and I've been going crazy, and I don't know how I'm going to do Reiki on people tomorrow when I am this drained. So
We are
Because
gonna
remember, Reiki, you're tapping the universal energy. It's not your energy. You'll be okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's just dealing with people.
Yeah, it's your own personal exhaustion. Yeah. You know, I know I'm trained in Reiki as well, and I've had some pretty amazing experiences with it. I once did a distance Reiki healing on my sister, and she didn't know I was doing it. And the next morning, she called and said, "I had this weird experience. She had hurt her leg, and I was like doing, you Reiki long distance to heal her leg."
Mm-hmm.
She called me. I had this weird experience at 3 a.m. in the morning that I woke up and I could feel someone's hand on my leg, squeezing it and healing it, whatever. I was like, you didn't know that's exactly the moment I was sending you Reiki.
I'm in the process of learning distance Reiki right now.
Mhm.
So I'm only have my level 1. I'm in the process of learning my 2, but I won't get my 2 for 4 months technically, because you have to work with all of the symbols and whatnot for 4 months before I go back and receive the other symbol and get
Yeah.
my certification. So
It works.
Got it.
All I care about is what works. It
I
works.
believe it. I believe in it. I like combining Reiki with my yoga practices.
Mhm.
Now that I'm teaching yoga, I do like slow flow restorative yoga, and with people in the restorative positions, I do Reiki on like various areas of their body. So
This has got to be it.
I think that is it.
We're still looking for this video?
Yes, that's it. That's it.
In the middle of the woods here.
Look, you see, it's a cemetery in the woods. I'm like,
Oh, there it is, yeah.
What did I walk into here?
You think that's like a family cemetery? Maybe there was a farm there once?
so apparently there was a hospital.
Okay, hospital, you said. That's right.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a hospital. And as I went through, there's like way more. I should have took more video, but I'm going to go back there and explore. Because it's really beautiful, and I felt very safe and very serene. But apparently, it's like
I'm gonna have a
suicide.
seizure here.
It's like suicide forest in there. And my friend that lives in that area was like, I used to walk there, but then like since COVID happened and that's like suicide forest now. No one goes in there. This year there were 3 suicides alone. I looked it up, and it's true. 3 people hung themselves there. I'm like, I didn't see any of that, and I felt very safe.
To be fair,
there.
they were talking back to me.
So, but it was so interesting because like a lot of the graves were covered. Like they were, even the larger ones, they were like falling apart, and they were pretty deep into the earth. It was interesting. I never seen anything like it, like in this area, because Salem takes care of all the grave sites, and so does Danvers and like Beverly and Peabody, like the cities around me. They take care of all the grave sites. They preserve them for historic purposes. And if that's someplace where there was a hospital and it's a hospital grave site,
This is also a good video.
Are we going through my car videos
Why?
now?
What am I supposed to do, Kayla? It's right there.
It's my new hair.
Yeah, it looks
I love
good.
it. You're gonna I hate you right now.
I mean, and I'm gonna. There we go.
You're
It's
gonna
all-
post it. We're gonna see it.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, let's get this party finished.
That wasn't
for the night.
uncomfortable.
Not at all. Even a
It
little
was
bit.
uncomfortable for us. We were good with it.
We're good.
On the internet, girl. It's already out
It's there. Yeah.
Oh, I know, but it's not up on a stream. Now it's on a stream.
It might be, Kayla. You just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Who's
Like
going to my page? No one bookmarked that. You know what? That's something that I
gonna
don't
bookmark that right
understand.
now.
Can I tell you? I want to know who bookmarks my shit. I want
Do
to
you
know.
really though? Do you
Yes,
No,
I
you don't
do.
want to know.
You
don't wanna
Oh,
know
yes,
that.
I do.
Yeah,
I
because
wanna
you'll
know who
contact
find out
them and be like,
the
"Why are you
friend that you
bookmarking
think
me?"
is
And
your
be like,
friend is
"Send feet
bookmarking your
pics."
stuff. You don't want to screw up your relationship.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, I want to know.
No, you don't.
I want to
I
know.
wanna
God
know.
damn it! I want to
All-
know.
You
All I can
don't
tell
know,
you-
Kayla. You don't know, Kayla.
All I can tell you from this so far is the first response is Gooch right away, immediately. Looks great.
Well,
So
you haven't seen my hair pics or my hair videos.
no, you have great head of hair. So I'm
I
jealous of
know.
your hair.
I
by the
know.
way.
I've been asking all day. I was like, show hair, Gooch.
He
All
does.
day.
He wears the hat
Nothing.
usually
He's-
until he went and got a
yeah.
fresh lineup. And then when he got that fresh lineup and he put the gel in his hair and slicked his hair and styled it looking like an Italian stallion, he was like all extra Guccified, and he's like, the hair can come out today.
We
That's what happened.
we already lost Lord and Lady B. They had to leave. They got a phone call. So thank
They're
you
the
guys so
boring
much.
married couple now. They're the boring married couple.
Go subscribe to Lady Balefire and White Cloaks. They're both in the description here for their Twitter and their YouTube channels. And so please go get them. There's people are enjoying that video. You're welcome. You're welcome. You should go follow Kayla. She's fantastic. Nadia, let's get you here.
What's up?
What's
Hi,
going on?
everybody. Fuck, what is going on this week? Oh, tomorrow I'm on Gooch talking about best animation with Sammy. And Friday I'm on Dreaming Tabitha's for an art stream. And then Saturday I'm on some horror stream. So I just dropped my Terrifier 3 trailer reaction with Vex as a special guest. And I'm working on my 5 worst horror movie video. So that should be out in the next few days. So follow me if you love horror. Or even if you don't, give me the numbers. Give me the subs.
Definitely give her the subs. We have to get her to
So hit
500.
500. Yes.
Hey,
Gotta give me
I
the
love your
500.
glasses.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Go sub to Nadia. Her both of her channels are in the description here too. So you're still doing the live streams with Inside All Day?
Yes, so we're gonna be picking up with Penguin coming up
Interesting.
this coming month. Yeah, so I've got a great panel for that. I
Neat,
think you're on it
neat.
too, Zach,
Mhm.
Sammy, Gooch. So yeah, that should be fun. That's very close to being monetized. If I get to 500 for the horror channel, I've got some ideas coming the way, some streams, some members only things. So yeah.
Definitely worth it. Always watch Nadia stuff. Speaking of people who are putting up some great stuff, now we got Sammy here. What's up, Sammy?
Oh, that way.
Hi, I'm Sammy 3Pete. You can find me on Twitter.
Go to Sammy.
I'm
Now
tired.
having an
Everything's funny right
existential
now.
crisis and questioning my gender. I just put out a review of The Crow. Spoiler alert, it was terrible.
Mhm.
You can find me tomorrow with Gooch. With Nadia as well. And then let's see, Friday I think I'll be on Badger's channel. Saturday I believe I'm open. Sunday I will be doing late night with Gooch. And then Monday I will be on Triple M. We're doing Beetlejuice, but I might be on I'll either be on Leon's channel or I'll be on BSUP. So then after that we start the whole animation block all over again. So check me out, say hi,
You're muted.
I said Gooch is the worst person I've ever met. Oh, hey. Wow.
Well, that's facts.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
dropping facts like that. Spitting facts.
I was saying go sub to Sammy. His link is in the chat description and his Twitter as well. So give him a follow, please. We know we love our Gooch. You are you're taking over YouTube right now.
Mhm.
And
No.
No.
Your Sunday show is like it's explosive, is what it is. Late night with Gooch. What's going on with you, my friend?
Well, tomorrow night we're gonna be doing our top 5 animated shows. Should be a lot of fun. Nadia and Sammy will be there. I believe Goodwin, Blue Collar, Zach, Badger said he'd drop in. Zax, you're more than welcome to drop in. Kayla, if you're around.
I won't be around tomorrow.
I knew you wouldn't be around. Yeah,
I'm going to be gone to work that event. I'm leaving in the morning, and then I'm staying out there.
You never talk to me anymore.
Whose fault is that?
You.
No, that's
Take us out right now.
Yeah. No. She's like a sister to me. So Sunday
in a
night.
Game of Thrones way.
Not in a Game of Thrones way.
No.
Like that.
Yeah, like
That's horrible.
Targaryen sort of.
Late night with Gooch is become something. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast. We have quite the lineup for Sunday. We'll have Nyat and Cannoli Sasquatch as our special guests. Of course, there'll be the panel there, and then again next week we continue with Invincible on Tuesday nights. Wednesday night, I'm not sure what I'm doing Wednesday night yet. I'm still kind of contemplating that. Thursday night though, we're going to be starting Terminator I think it's called Ground Zero. I believe it's called Ground Zero, the animated series. And looking forward to reviewing that series. So come check that out as well. So yeah, a lot of things happening at the channel, and just grifting along.
So he's sore because he got one comment calling him a grifter, and like he's still talking about it. So they got you. They got you, Gooch.
No, I take that as a compliment. It's the right wing thing that I don't like.
Oh yeah, you're not right wing. You're Canadian. You can't be right wing.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
We had Timo Solani at right wing. That was enough. That's all we had. That's a deep cut joke. Cameron, you're on Patreon. Your Patreon is the pinned comment up in the chat. So I'm still a member there. You have fantastic coverage. You break stories, and like you do, people get on you a little bit about some of the stuff. But I think that like you present everything as what it is. You're not trying to sell people something that's not there. You pass on information you get, and I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a perspective, which is that I do think Hollywood is getting better. I think, we went through a 10-year period of pure garbage, right? That was politically motivated, a lot of morons in the system more than usual. But I do believe things are getting better, and that's not always a popular position in YouTube where people make clicks off of just saying the sky is falling all the time, right? And I don't think that's fair. And I think there's been a lot of good stuff that's came out, a lot of good stuff that's coming out. So that is, if you want an honest perspective, come to my Patreon and I share stuff that I'm getting from the industry. Like I actually do work in this industry, and recently I'll share this one thing that I haven't posted on the Patreon yet, but I had to laugh because I posted on the Patreon that a lot of my screenwriter friends hate the Lord of the Rings show on Amazon, right? Mm-hmm. And so in the past, I've posted like their comments that they've put, like on the writer's board. They're like, and now they're all talking about the new season that's coming out, and they're like, this is just pure garbage. And, how did Amazon greenlight this thing with because, the guys who created the show are literally nobodies. Like if you look at their IMDb page, their only credit is Lord of the Rings, executive producers. They're making like $10 million a year on that. I was like, before that, nothing. I mean, that's a good job. That's to have no credits and then be given $1 billion to make to do this without any experience. That's a pretty good job, right? And it's caused a lot of resentment amongst, you can imagine every screenwriter in Hollywood has a take on Lord of the Rings or on the Silmarillion or all this stuff, right? And they were all passed over for these two dudes, right? And so I've been posting a lot of fun stories about Hollywood people are talking about there because they really resent these two guys.
Well, I mean, the thing is too with that is like there's so much to go into, but it like they asked J.J. Abrams to recommend some guys for them, and that's how these guys got the job.
These are guys. I mean, they had no credits. I mean, my writer's assistant has more credits than they've got. I mean, my writers has gotten stuff produced more than they have, right? So whatever. So as you see, we're scrolling through some of my recent articles on. So this just came out. Sigourney Weaver. Some of you hear about Sigourney Weaver's talking now about her role in The Mandalorian. So those who are subscribed to my Patreon know that a couple of months ago, my sources actually told me what the role was, and I published it for the Patreon members, right? As to what her actual, at least the script could change. It could change, right? As of 2 months ago, the role that she got. If you go to my Patreon, you can find out more about what that is, or at least what it was when I got the report. So I get interesting scoops from people inside these companies, and it's just a fun place. And I've been sharing a lot of Marilyn Monroe stuff because of my movie. So if you have any interest in some stuff we talked about, it's posted a lot on the Patreon. So yeah. So just come join me there. It's good. You're muted, Zach. You're muted.
Oh, thank you, Cameron, for letting me know. So this is the War of the Rohirrim is coming out, all that stuff. People are, up and down about the trailer. And one thing that people aren't really talking about, and this reminded me of it because you talked about the writers for Rings of Power, is people are talking about Philip Boyens and Peter Jackson, but he's not really that involved in this. And the screenwriter, the first credited screenwriter is actually Phoebe Gittins, who is. People have not really put together a ton yet, but that's Philippa Boyen's daughter who's done the screenwriting for this anime film.
It's in the family then, okay.
It's in the family. She's got one other writing credit, The Sorrows from 2013. I don't know what that was. Okay. And she was in other movies as an actress. She was in the Lord of the Rings movies as a Hobbit, I think, and then she was in the Hobbit movie because her mom was involved in writing that. But it's like you said, these big franchises, all this money, and it's going to people who
They're just
who
a
know
club.
people. That's all it is, right?
It's just a club, and it's a terrible thing because literally it's like $1 billion. If you had given me $1 billion, I would have done an amazing version of the Silmarillion because that's a book that changed my life when I was a teenager. I know it inside out, right? I would have done an amazing version of Sauron and the founding of the rings and all that stuff, right? Not just me, but pretty much 90% of professional Hollywood would have done a good version of that show. But these two guys were recommended by Abrams. And also, they're not, because what's his face, Bezos at Amazon, he wanted to take credit for this. He wanted to be the one that truly did Tolkien correctly. So so a lot of his dumb stuff is in that show, right? And they're not in any position to say no to him. They have no credibility at all. This is like winning the lottery, and he controls the lottery purse strings. So it's like if they came to me, and if Bezos came to me and said, we're going to do it this way, I'd be like, Jeff, that's not going to work for the fans. That's a problem. Jeff doesn't want to hear that. So these guys ain't going to say no to him. But I don't know if you all know this. The second season, they fired their entire writing staff. I mean, they're just writing it themselves. The first season with a writing staff, they made a mediocre show. Their writing staff was actual professional writers with credits, unlike the bosses. Right. Now these two guys are writing it by themselves. I mean, can you even imagine one of my friends who's a showrunner, is a very big showrunner, told me that what he heard from friends that were on the production, they're like, second season, these guys, like first season, the actors kind of went along with it because those are good actors, I think, that are miscast. I don't think a lot of these actors are in the right roles for this show, but whatever. But they're good actors in the wrong roles. But they went along with it. They read the scripts and said, okay, we're in Lord of the Rings and we're excited for Rings of Power. And we're going to, we don't quite get these scripts, but we're going to bring it our all. But after like the first season and they saw the public didn't like it, the ratings were low, these actors are like now beginning to resist. So my friend, the showrunner who knows people on the set, was like, actors were saying that, I don't know about this line, boss. This doesn't feel like my character would say that. This doesn't feel right, And literally these two guys with no experience have been handling it the worst possible way. Because I've experienced that where actor says, I don't know about this line. It's very common. And you have to diplomatically try to either work it out with them or get them to say the line in a way that makes them feel respected, right? But these two guys are showing up and saying, dude, we wrote the line. Just shut the hell up and read the line. That's not how you treat an actor, right? That's not going to get you a response that's positive, right? So they're coming in lording their power over these people because they don't have any experience of how to treat fellow creatives. So you can imagine what the final outcome is that if they don't have any writers and they're bossing the actors around. I mean, can you imagine what is the disaster of this thing is coming? I don't know.
It's gonna be a mess. Kayla, anything you're promoting? I know you're going to be working a show tomorrow, you said. Do you want to promote that or not? It's okay if you don't.
Is Kayla here? Should you leave?
You're muted if you're talking. Well,
I was talking.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Jeez. So, no, I don't want to tell the public where I'm going to be because I don't want the public.
That's not useful on YouTube. That's not useful.
I don't want them. Well, no, because the event is kind of like people have already signed up for time slots and everything, and I really don't want anyone like showing up to. I just don't want people showing up.
Gotcha.
Showing up to be weird.
Yeah, it would be very weird. Like, show up to where I'm doing yoga and Reiki. No one weird can show up to that.
It'll be fine.
But
drop a pin.
I'm not really like doing anything online.
What's I think I'm subscribed to your channel. What's your channel? Do we have the link?
I don't have a channel.
No,
you don't have a channel? Then I'm not subscribed to your channel. How do we
So
how do we watch these videos of you walking around in the forest with Sasquatch and
Twitter?
On Twitter, X.
Okay. Well, I'm not on
Twitter. Say it again, Kayla. Say it again.
Twitter. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of torn about streaming. Like, I do want to start interviewing again. I do want to, especially like going to Comic-Con, like a bigger Comic-Con this past weekend, and just speaking to people and.
Well, you're working on this book too, Kayla.
Yeah, that's all done. That's going to be, people are going to be getting that soon, and I'm on to a new project within the same sphere.
So how can we get this book? What's your link? How do we get this book?
So that is Reaper Destroyer on Indiegogo. It is a book created by Joe M. Sontag. I am on his supplemental book. I have a 10-page story about his villainess character, Vanessa. And yeah, it's still available to be backed. It is in the process of getting printed right now. And after Joe figures out everything that he's doing with the proofs and selecting what he's going to do, pretty soon things will be shipping. So, and then
There you
I'm
go.
not
This
sure
is
if
yours.
he's going
This is
to.
your section.
Yeah, that's my
Cool.
section. But
10-page supplemental story. Very cool.
everyone's like very caught up in the nudity or what they believe is nudity there, but there serves a purpose, and a lot of people are missing just other details about it, although I think Gooch will be fresh if I say what I'm going to say. So
Don't do it. Don't say it.
no.
The link is in the chat though. If you want to go back it.
Yep, I already bought an issue, so I'm looking forward to having that be delivered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't be
So-
disappointed. Trust me. It's a phenomenal book.
Well, I was
I
also
really
lucky
love-
enough to be on a panel with Joe and get to know a little bit more about the story, and I'm very excited
Yeah.
to read it. So
Yeah.
How long is it going to be up to purchase?
I think
Do you know, Keila?
I think what Joe's plan is, I mean, I can't speak necessarily for him, but what I believe is once he closes out this campaign, which he'll be closing it out probably when it starts shipping. I know that he's taken off some tiers, so some tiers are not available to be backed. He will be going to another crowdfunding website, whether that's Kickstarter or Fund My Comic, whatever he chooses to do. He's probably gonna run a second chance campaign, I would think, on one of those sites. I'm not 100% for sure though, so don't take my words as gold right now, because it's his project and he'll make the announcements when he sees fit to. But yeah, it's an
Morning,
amazing
Kitty.
project. So I'm sorry, I'm half dead tonight. I'm telling
No,
you.
you're good. You're good. Kitty's popping in from the Middle East. Well, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, somewhere like that.
Yahtzee.
Exactly. Yeah, Rupert Destroyer. So you've read that, Gooch. You recommend it?
I
Rupert
highly
Destroyer?
recommend it.
Yeah.
Like that. This book should be at least 500,000 easy in sales. He's so underrated. Both of them, Kayla and Joe, are underrated writers. Kayla's
Well, I'm also co-editor of the project.
Yes.
So
Uh,
yay for me.
That's cool.
Actually, looking at this, the price for these different perks, this is pretty good for.
Oh yeah.
And
It is.
the prices are only going to get better too. I can't speak too much on it. But Joe has
Definitely
a
don't.
plan. And when he announces everything, everyone is going to be pleasantly surprised. I think everyone's going to be very happy. Yeah. I like me as someone that works in a shop on weekends and has spent 14 years working in a shop pretty much. Joe's book is definitely a book that could be put in a shop and will sell. There are not many
Easy.
books on the indie scene, and I don't care who I offend because I say it all the time. There are not many books that you could put right out on a shelf and people are going to look at it and buy it. But it
Yeah.
definitely has
No,
that
yeah.
appeal by the artwork in it. And then when people read the story, they're going to love the story because looks are deceiving. People get caught up in the art style that he has, and people kind of think like, oh, it's going to be written like a 90s book. No, not at all.
I love his art.
His art
Yeah.
is phenomenal. It's very 90s art inspired. I see a lot of Silvestri and McFarlane in Joe's artwork, and sometimes I see a little David Finch and Jim Lee. But Joe's art style is completely his own. He kind of has combined the artists he was influenced by and inspired by into his own thing. And it's very 90s inspired. That's the time, like when we stream on Akba, we go over a lot of 90s comic book art. So Yeah, but it doesn't have a 90s storyline, because I will say comics in the 90s, as far as their story quality and how they were written, were not the best. Very art focused.
Hot take.
I mean, it's not.
That sounds right.
It is what it is. I mean, I've read a lot. It's hard for me to compare a lot of the stories of the 90s to like Roy Thomas writing Savage Sword or Chris Claremont's most amazing X-Men
Who
run.
you met?
Yes, who I met, and I love him, and he's the best human being in the world. He's great.
Oh God, you opened up that door.
I love him so much. He's even better in person. He like you know, the like don't meet your influences.
Here we
don't
go.
meet your idols. Nope.
Chris Claremont.
Chris Claremont. You meet Chris motherfucking Claremont. That man is a writing god. And I talked to him for like 40 minutes. And then I talked to him the next day for more minutes. He is just such a awesome human being. I just love that he shoots straight, and he's just great. He'll answer all of your questions. He gives like actual real answers, gives real opinions on what he thinks about things nowadays and everything. He's fucking great. I love him. He's the best. He's the shit. He's not phony. I've met a lot of people that are very phony within the comic industry. And if they're not happy with something, they'll still like bite their tongue on it and, you know, say, oh yeah, this is great. Not Chris Claremont. So yeah.
Right.
I love him.
Well, let's call this party off. We got happy birthday to common people. I'll be back Saturday, Circle of Jerks, usual time, usual place. Next Wednesday, we're trying a new show concept called What If Wednesday, which I stole from Gooch. And the question of next week is going to be, what if Star Trek was never made? And
then we wouldn't have cell phones.
I've never seen it, so I can't make a judgment on it.
I am not a big Star Trek fan. I don't hate it, but I'm not a big fan.
We wouldn't have cell phones. We wouldn't have cell phones. And actually, Star Trek wouldn't have gotten made if there was no I Love Lucy.
Well, black and white stuff doesn't count.
Well,
no, but Lucy's production company was involved.
Yeah, and she was a fan of it, and I guess backed it and said that it should be something. I can't remember exactly right now.
But we're going to cover culture stuff too, sci-fi as well, and like inventions, tech, all of it that came from that, and would have been better off if it was put elsewhere. Like, was that the right way to do it?
Well, and then
come back next week.
I'm going to raise this up that there's Roddenberry's personal assistant later claimed that Roddenberry was fed the information from Star Trek by the U.S. government based on their actual interaction with aliens. That's what Roddenberry.
I can fucking believe it.
I've never seen Star Trek, but I believe it.
I'm not a big fan of Star Trek. I like Farscape.
Yeah. Well, and if you guys Google the Enterprise carving on Mars, there's a massive natural formation on Mars that looks exactly like the V-shaped Federation sign. I mean, it's exactly the Federation, and it's a natural carving on the surface of Mars that was captured by satellites a couple of years ago. So
I need to look that up.
So all I got out of all this was just don't count on me for next week, I guess, because I've never seen Star Trek.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not. I'm not a big Star Trek fan. I like Star Trek. Fine. I want to get some people from varied experts. I don't have like Cameron. Obviously, you have stories that are crazy on this, but I want to just explore it.
I like Farscape. Farscape,
yeah, Farscape was better, but I've never seen Star Trek, so.
That was quick.
I'm a fan of the original Trek from Roddenberry, and I'm a fan of Deep Space Nine because I worked with Ira Steven Behr, the creator of that. That was my first showrunner on Twilight Zone, and I think Deep Space Nine is an incredibly sophisticated, intelligent show.
All I hear is I have Wednesday night off next week.
You have Wednesday night off. That's
what
right.
are we doing, Kayla?
I don't know. You want to talk about Farscape?
Oh, that's a good idea. There you go.
You want to go into detail about actually, I think that would be really cool because you have so much knowledge about makeup in the industry and everything. That would be a really cool stream for you to Yeah, let's rewatch
Yeah.
Farscape. I'm down. I think it's on like, is it on Tubi right now? It's on something right now for free. I know that
Let's see.
much, or maybe something
I
I'm
have
paying for. I don't
the
know.
old DVDs, but let's see. Yeah, Tubi has it for free. And
Yeah,
Peacock.
yeah, I love Farscape.
So tune in next week for not talking about Farscape. And thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for coming, panel. You guys have been awesome. Thank you, chat. You guys have been amazing too, all night hanging out here with us, and still almost 40 people here, which is awesome. For like, we're a very niche topic, and so it's great to have you guys here. And thanks for the raid, Goochimal. And with that, Goochimal.
You welcome, buddy.
Yeah. I gotta have nicknames from Goochzilla is another one too. So I'm workshopping this stuff as we go. With that, please chat on your feet, and let's respect our outro song. Have a great week, everybody.
Respect to the trans community. And fuck you, transphobes.
Trans people are my friends. Transphobes gon' catch these hands. Trans people are my friends. So respect them, but we're going in. Trans people are my friends. Transphobes gon' catch these hands. Trans people are my friends. So respect them, but we're going in. Transphobes, show your fucking mouth. I'll knock you out. I'll knock you out. Transphobes, show your fucking mouth. I'll knock you out. You better watch out. Trans people are my friends. Transphobes gon' catch these hands. Trans people are my friends. So respect them, but we're going in. Trans people are my friends. Transphobes gon' catch these hands. Trans people are my friends. So respect them, but we're going in. Trans people are my friends. Everyone.